Hello and welcome. I'm the Restless Kaiser.
And I'm Johnny B.
I'm Ralph.
And
there's another one.
I'm Alan. Hello.
Hey, but together we are
Modeling
Advantage.
Oh, Ralph nailed that.
Wasn't that a beautiful sound? Who knows, guys? This week I upgraded our StreamYards account, and now you should be seeing us in even higher definition.
Wow.
Don't know if that's actually the case, but you know, there's an extra tenner a month says it should be.
I should move back.
I feel higher. I feel higher.
You feel higher. Paul Parker is going to catch us in the rerun. Alan has got questions for the Flames of War guys later.
Awesome.
Axe and Axe again. Rich John, hello there, my friend. Pat Neal, evening. Flames of War, second half. Yep, absolutely. Andrew 777, hey guys, and friends of General Haig, ahoy, evening all. You must remember Kingmaker, Andy. You're a man of shall we say experience in
a certain vintage, yes.
Veterans, we call them veterans.
Grognards.
Grognards, yeah.
Hobbying tonight, I will be putting some Vallejo English uniform on some Flames of War British Infantry, or at least that's the plan. Let's see how far I get with that.
Oh, thanks, buddy. Yeah, I appreciate that, because that's the army I'm going to be using. Yeah. I'm painting up some of the 0200 sentries because I'm attempting to get these done for Friday, and hopefully there'll be the box cover art for War Games Atlantic. We shall see.
Entering the competition, are you, John?
Yes,
I'm
I am.
teaching my cat to paint.
Good.
I'm going to be sleeving cards. I'm going to be sleeving cards. I have cards. I have many cards, and I have many sleeves. Hopefully, some of them will match. You never know.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, gentlefolk, I don't know if are we going to do the standard tell us who you are, Kaiser, or yes?
Yeah.
Looks like we are. Gentlemen, tell us who you are in order.
I'm Alan Paul. I am I call myself a developer of the new version of Kingmaker. The Kingmaker was designed by Andrew MacLeod, so I am the redeveloper of it, really. That's me. I also have a games company called Surprise Stare Games, which some of you may have heard of. We generally do board games, but we have been known to do miniatures games. In fact, I have a World War II miniature rule set, which we sell at the moment as well.
Well, I never.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Ralph H. Anderson, Dragon Cat on BGG. I've been in the games industry the last dozen years or so, and lifelong hobby. I design games Chimera and the new Detective Rummy that will come out someday here in the U.S. And I work on developing games. I also worked with others. You might know me from Baseball Highlights 2045 and Rococo, Deluxe Rococo.
Rococo.
Very nice.
Technical hiccups there, Ralph. I'm looking forward to. It's not going to go bad. This stream is going to work. I know it for sure. Anyway,
well, I'm all the way in the U.S., so
well, unlucky.
In God's chosen land.
Some days.
In the meanwhile, Tony Halton has joined us, and Rich M has. So I've put paint on exactly one miniature. Already going to stop to do something else. So Alan and Ralph, Kingmaker.
Yeah.
In a short while, you've actually got a tabletop simulator. You're going to show us the game as it was. I'm thinking Kingmaker. I played at a university a lot, which was in the mid-90s, but it was already an old game. This is an old bit of Avalon Hill, right? From the golden age of wargaming board games.
Well, it's older than that. It's even older than that. It goes back to 1974.
Right.
Ariel Filmar did the first edition in 74. Then, unfortunately, it was a bit of a flop in the UK, but they loved it in the States. So Ralph's compatriots all took it on board, and there was an Avalon Hill version in 76. It came back.
That's the copy.
It came back to the UK by Gibson's Games, and it's Gibson's Games which we're focusing on because Gibson's are doing the publishing the new edition. So it has been around a while. Yes. I mean, when it came out, I was still in secondary school, so that's ages me nicely. But I played it. Yeah, I played it when it first came out as well. So I'm a kind of long-standing Kingmaker player, and I think I've clocked up probably a couple of hundred plays by now. I should think. Yeah. So yeah, an old style game, but Gibsons are republishing it. It's all new components and it's completely rewritten. So those of you that know Kingmaker from of old, you can be reassured we've addressed a lot of the, shall we say, the problems that were encountered when it was first published. The problems with the map and the rules. We've ironed out some of the things you would discover if there's been tens or hundreds of thousands of plays of the game. You're bound to discover things that are slightly
things where the rules as written didn't quite make sense. Yeah. Everybody kind of had homebrew solutions.
That's it. Yeah,
various things. Yeah, I mean, I as I say, I played this with a group of friends at university, so I remember such things existed, but I have no idea what they were. I haven't looked at this game in 20 years, which is why I was really excited.
And the good news is for newer players, Alan's redeveloped a wonderful version of the game that plays in 2 to 3 hours and has more modern game feel to it, which you can tell us more about.
Yeah, there are actually 4 ways to play the Kingmaker in the new game. The first one that I generally mention is the one I did, which is called Kingmaker II for the second Gibson's edition, and this one has it retains the essence of Andrew McNeil's original Kingmaker game. That's the bottom line is we wanted to make it feel like you were playing Kingmaker as of old, but it's a new streamlined version. The main parts of streamlining are that we've introduced a new victory condition based on prestige victory. So instead of only winning by having the last remaining live royal piece crowned, you can now win through having immense amounts of prestige, and you get prestige through offices, through controlling cities, and of course through having control of the king. So that's one way of streamlining
from going on for hours and hours and hours and hours.
So you can't just go and hole up in Calais and just build up your army and wait forever and never come out.
And now you can truly play alliances as well.
Yeah, you can actually win in an alliance, and because of the nature of the way prestige works, alliances are slightly more stable than they were in the original game. The other main streamlining we've done in the new version is we have regional movement, and regional movement, I'll show it to you when we get to actual play, means that instead of counting out 5 squares, where squares are irregular polygons, you just move from one region to an adjacent region, and it becomes much easier to see where you might be able to move to and actually do it. So that's another way we streamlined it. And actually, one that I nearly always forget to mention, which is quite critical for gameplay, rather than just having one set of white noble pieces, so you can never tell who owns what, you now each get your own color set of playing pieces. Ooh. So one of us will play purple, one of us will play yellow, one of us will play white, and you can see who actually owns what.
Who actually owns which noble.
Yeah, exactly, which makes a difference. Yeah.
But underneath it, as you say, this is still Kingmaker as people remember it, and indeed, although this is going on Kickstarter, it's essentially one product with multiple ways to play, including Classic.
Yes, one side of the board has got the new version with the regional movement and various bits and pieces. If you flip it over, you lose all the pieces. Now, if you flip it over, on the other side, you've got Classic Kingmaker, but the map's been redrawn so that you haven't got ambiguous points where you're not sure whether you can move from one square to the other, or you're not sure whether a shield crosses the road or whatever. It's all been clarified with new artwork, but the old rules are still there, or at least I would say it's our interpretation of the old rules, isn't it? Really, Ralph? To be honest, it's more it's clarified. There's more clarity.
And you also have the inclusion of the many house rules and variants that have been developed and improved over the years have also been included. You've curated those into the game.
Yeah, so we've got extended classic Kingmaker, which is the old Gibson's Avalon Hill Advanced Kingmaker. That is now called Extended Classic, and there's also a whole bunch of variants. So if you like the old optional Parliament, where you've got votes in the House of Commons and the House of Lords, if you like that, you can still do that. That's in there. If you like the idea that you roll dice to see who dies in battle or who dies of plague, that option is in there as well. So there's lots of that, and there's a whole bunch of new cards based on the set of cards that Avalon Hill printed as an expansion, which is now called the Divisions and Destructions.
But this is the kind of thing that even owners of the original game, there's like gold dust, things like that now, right? These cards. So everything that ever was is still there. The only difference if you buy this game today is you have rewritten the text of the original set of rules for anyone playing Classic. So there may be some things unfamiliar, but that's because you had to make a choice about which of the many house rulings it was. Exactly.
So you may not agree with my ruling on a particular point, but of course you can always play your own favorite house rules if you want to. That's not a problem at all. Yeah.
And there's also a solo mode. And wanted to revisit Kingmaker second to say that we've also addressed plague and the fact that you might be in a battle and suffer for a big loss of nobles. We have ways to bring you back into the game so that you're not sitting around trying to draw a card here and there. You want to expand on that? Because I keep lagging out.
Sure. Yeah. We figured that random death, which is common in the old version of Kingmaker, was not a great experience. I mean, you can have that situation as a first player. Your first experience of Kingmaker, right? I've got 3 nobles. I'll use them all to take Coventry, and I'll put myself into Coventry. And the next event card is Plague in Coventry. All my guys are wiped out. And as a first player experience, not desperately great. So if you do lose nobles, there's a rally to the cause rule where you draw a crown card for every 2 crown cards you lose. So I mean those will be random. They will be random, but you're not wiped out. And actually, if you lose in Kingmaker in the Kingmaker 2 version, if you lose a lot of people, if you would have lost a lot of people through plague, you only lose your best noble, because we figured it's bad enough to lose your best noble in the stack,
and you still rally to the
whole stack, and you still get rallied to the cause. So you're not knocked out. You're definitely weakened, but you're not knocked out.
Yeah.
And we also introduced more player agency when you draw a card at the end of the turn. Instead of drawing 1 card, you draw 2, put it in your hand, and then decide 1 to discard, which really helps you regrow and stay in the game.
Yeah. So what we're seeing a lot of quality of life improvements. I'm conscious that there is going to be a cadre of younger, perhaps people who are not familiar with the game, and we got straight in the sort of details of how it's different from the classic. So like young John there has probably never seen it. So before we start playing the game, though, in essence, what is Kingmaker?
Yeah.
Why would you play it?
Yes. Okay. Well, Kingmaker is a game with Wars of the Roses. Well, that's
already good. Sounds
already great. Cool. So you represent you as a player. You are a faction of nobles. The conceit of the game, if you like, is that the royal pieces have no agency in the game. They are merely ciphers. So the whole game is your faction manipulating these royal pieces, which is okay for people like Henry VI, but probably less historically accurate for somebody like Richard III. Or Duke of York. Yeah. So you will have a bunch of nobles in your faction, and you will allocate to them titles and offices of state and mercenaries and ownership of towns, and all those cards will give the particular nobles that they've been awarded to. They give them more troop strength. So you will then have a piece for each of your nobles on the board, and those are the bits that will move as armies around the board and try to conquer or at least defeat your rivals, or perhaps even to ally with some of your rivals in order to outmaneuver other people. It's a game of politics and military, so it's not just a war game.
Yeah,
There's a lot of politics and negotiation in it. And that's very important. A lot of players forget the fact that it's actually a political game, really, and you can win allied, or you can outmaneuver your people politically rather than just militarily. And that's part of part of the game. Very important part of the game.
Yeah, there's a very large event deck too that will
Yes.
introduce all sorts of burrs in your saddle, such as calling the marshal all over the country, where you can't use him that effectively sometimes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yes, because ideally you want to group your nobles together to make yourself a larger army. The trouble is the event deck shoves in raids and revolts which call certain specific nobles or offices of state to different parts of the country. So you're trying to concentrate, but unfortunately, Warden of the Northern Marches has to go to Bamborough to deal with the Scots.
And king's embassies will keep you chasing the king all.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So what I always liked about it, it's a board game. There's a level of abstraction, but it does a pretty good job of simulating some of those elements of the Wars of the Roses. Yeah, because on any given day, however strong a faction you might have, you may only be able to bring half or even a third of your forces to a particular battle. And you spend a lot of the time trying to kind of develop areas of control. And there's those offices that you mentioned saying, I want the guy who always gets sent up north to have one of the jobs that sends you up north so that I know where he's going to be most of the time. And to consolidate in those power blocks.
Yes.
It did a nice job. It isn't just that we all build a stack of pieces and then we move to the middle and there's a big fight and somebody wins it. No. It's half of your stack disappears.
It's all about it's all about maneuver. I mean, the most powerful office of the land in terms of troop strength
is the worst one.
The marshal, but the marshal has 100 troops, which is double what most people have. But the problem is he gets 10 calls in the event deck, so he's very likely to be called to Blackheath when you want him in the north, or the north when you want him in Blackheath.
And what I've found in all the games I've played is it tells a wonderful story, and the heraldry that's inherent in the game is just brilliant. So as an American, I just always found it a treat to play because it just told a great story.
Yeah. All right. So for those that have no idea what we're talking about, let's have a look at the actual game itself. Now, I want to be clear for anyone that's not sure. The game is not a video game, and it might not even be available on Tabletop Simulator. You put this together as a demo, but the Kickstarter comes out. When is the Kickstarter coming out?
The Kickstarter is 26th of September. It was going to be earlier, but we delayed because of the death of Her Majesty the Queen, and it's coming out now on the 26th of September.
And what you're buying is a physical copy of this card with lovely components, a modernized rule set, and a few different ways to play. But for the purpose of illustrating the game, we're going to play a round or so tonight on Tabletop Simulator. Alan's going to move all the pieces around like a pro.
It's really,
so let's.
It looks a bit. This is the overview of the whole thing. So on Tabletop Simulator, so you've got we're having a 3-player game. So we've got player here. That's my stuff, and I'm going to show you how that works. There's 2 factions. This faction down here is Ralph's faction, which is white. Look at that. There's Ralph at the bottom there, white. And here is Kaiser's faction in purple. But I've allocated all their cards for them, so they'll have to suffer my particular way of doing it,
so that we get somewhere.
Yeah. So I thought I'd just show you how this works. Now, we're using preset factions, which I've got Courtney's faction here. This you get this in the game. So for 2, 3, 4, and 5 players, there's a list of suggested crown cards that you can use. So in your first game or so, you can use these. You can keep using them if you like. You can just shuffle them up randomly and deal them out. It just helps you get started. You can just take those cards from the crown deck, like I've done here, and then allocate them. So there are various rules about what you can allocate to where. Let's just show you what I've got. The nobles are these guys at the top here. So I have got 4 nobles in my faction at the start. So I have got Fitzalan, Earl of Arundel here, Earl of Devonshire, Clifford, and Cromwell. Now, the first 2 here, they've got their own built-in title. Earl of Arundel, Earl of Derbyshire, Earl of Devonshire. So they can't have another title. But we have These two guys haven't got a title, so I can give one of them, and I'm going to make it Cromwell, actually, for reasons I'll tell you a bit. Cromwell is going to have this title here, Earl of Westmoreland. So I have decided, because I want to make sure that my troops, when I get them, can go places and do things, he is going to have the Earl of Westmoreland. Conventionally, we tuck them like this, so you can see, everyone can see the troop strengths. All of that is public information anyway. And I'm going to make the Earl of Arundel the Chancellor of the Duchy of Cornwall. Only titled nobles can have an office, and you can only have one office for each noble. So Fitzalan becomes the Chancellor of the Duchy of Cornwall. All these yellow cards, this is another example here, they all have 50 troops, but sometimes they get extra troops in a different region. In this case, Chancellor of the Duchy of Cornwall gets an extra 100 troops in Devon and Cornwall, which is marked in a little mini map on the card there. You can just about see it. It's easy to see physically. So he will have that. That gives him a total of 80 troops to start with. Now I'm going to make him 100, because 100 is a nice, convenient number of troops to have, because in order to take one of the royal pieces, and the part of the game is gaining royal pieces. The royal pieces start, you can just about see them here, on specific towns, specific locations on the board. The red ones are the Lancastrians. So Henry VI, he is the king. He starts in London. London's a city, and it has a garrison of 300, which means you can't get to Henry unless you can beat the 300 garrison. And to do that, you need 300 or more troops. So he's a bit out of our reach, because the preset factions all have less than 300 troops at the start. So we can't start by taking London. And similarly here, Richard of York, he starts in York, and that's another city. Again, he has 300. He's got 300 garrison. You can't get him either. Now, the other two Lancastrians, Edward of Westminster is in Coventry. That only has a garrison of 200. It's only a town. So if we can gather together 200 troops, we could have a crack at that. Similarly, Margaret of Anjou, who is Henry's queen,
who is a French witch, by the way, for anyone that doesn't know.
Yes, indeed. She starts in the royal castle of Kenilworth, and that has a garrison of 200 as well. So having 200 troops is useful. Now, there are a couple of other guys. Well, there's three other guys, actually. There is Edward of March. Now, Edward Earl of March, also known as Edward IV. Apparently. He became Edward IV. He starts in Harlech, and that's another royal castle of 200 troops. So to get him, we need 200. This is a different one. George of Clarence starts in Cardigan. Now, that is a town. So it does have a 200 garrison, but it's got this little white flag. The little white flag that you can, the little white flag that you can see there means this is an open town. So it will automatically surrender to anybody who goes there. So they'll automatically welcome you in open arms, and you can have George of Clarence for nothing. Which is no.
But what about Calais?
Finally, there's Richard of Gloucester, boo, who became Richard III.
What do you mean? King Richard?
King Richard III. Yeah, he starts in Calais, which is another town, so it's got a garrison of 200. It's a port, but you do have to have a ship to get there, because there's this English Channel thing, which always gets in the way. So you've got to have ships to get there. So we may not have a chance to get that one. Right, so
all the good ones have got white roses on. And all the bad ones have got red roses.
Oh, the red. Okay.
Yes, fine. Yes, good point. So, I'm starting with Fitzalan. I should say these are my noble pieces up here, the circular pieces, and they have to start in the home castle on their noble card. In this case, Fitzalan starts in either Oswestry or Arundel. The numbers, Oswestry 2D, that means if you look at the grid, Oswestry is in the 2D bit. There's numbers at the bottom and letters up this side. So Oswestry is over here. So he has to start in either Oswestry or Arundel, which is down there. Now, to my mind, being down the south coast isn't actually very useful. So we'll start him in Oswestry, which is there. Now I flipped him over because you can't see that very well. That's got a kind of fortification icon on the counter to show that he is actually inside his home castle. So he's protected by the 100 garrison and home castle. I'm going to give Cromwell, who I've made Earl of Westmoreland, the Constable of Dover Castle. Right. And Cromwell is here. Cromwell has 2 home castles. He has got this one, Tattersall, here. And he's also got South Wingfield. Now, South Wingfield is on this road between York and Shrewsbury. And if you've got a castle on the road, it blocks the road for road movement. So I'm going to mark that as my castle. So everyone knows I own it. So I can stop people using road movement to go up that road to York, which is kind of helpful. And we'll put Cromwell in there. The other two guys are not actually very helpful. Clifford has to start. We look at it. He has to start in Skipton on the left of the card there. And Skipton is in the back end of Beyond, I'm afraid. Sorry if anybody comes from Skipton. But it's right up there. It's no road. It's not got on a road.
In the middle of the Pennines, though, right? It literally is in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, pretty much. And the other guy I've got is the Earl of Devonshire, who has to start in Devon. So he has to start in Oakhampton, which is right down there, which again is miles from the action. So we'll not give these two guys much in the way of troops. Have you noticed I've got 100 troops in Cromwell, 50, 90, 100, and I've got 100 troops with Fitzalan as well. So I've got my 200, so I'm happy with that. So I'm just going to allocate the other troops, all the other troops to Devonshire. We have control of Leicester as well, so I'll mark Leicester because Leicester is on this road going from London up to York, which is helpful. So we block that one as well.
And Newcastle.
We also have Newcastle. And now Newcastle is not on a road. It's right up in the north. It's not on a road. It's not that important. So if players want to mark the ones that aren't desperately important, they can do, but mostly we leave them blank. I also have Carlisle. I have the Bishop of Carlisle. So I actually do control Carlisle, which is all the way up there. And it means that if it comes to the crunch and I manage to get a royal peace who isn't king, I've got part of what I need to crown a king because I've got a bishop. You need an archbishop or 2 bishops to crown a king. So I've got half of that. It's better than nothing. Right. So that's my allocation and my pieces are on. Oh, I've also, because I've got Chancellor Duchy of Cornwall, I've also got Oxford and Plymouth. So I can mark Oxford, which blocks that road. As you can see, I've got quite a lot of blocking of roads here. And I've also got Plymouth, which is down there, which is a port.
It's saying a lot about roads because if you'll notice, although the game is divided up into these squares, you can move as far as you like on a road in one turn as long as it's unobstructed. So you can really go from one end of the table to the other. But otherwise, you're moving very, very slowly.
Yes.
And you're never likely to be able to concentrate your forces without control of the major roads.
Yes, that's quite good.
Using the regional movement, though, is quite good. You should demonstrate that.
Yeah. Well, let's do that as we play. So we go to player 1, which is Ralph. So this is Ralph's. This is Ralph's set. Now Ralph's probably not even seen what Ralph has got here.
I haven't seen what you stood up. Have you put the markers on the map?
Yeah, all the markers for yours are on the map, and so Kaiser's.
Okay.
So you have got Talbot, who's got 100 troops. You've got Buckingham, who's got 80. You've got Berkeley, who has got. Berkeley's got 100. Your main forces are Talbot and Berkeley because you've got 200 in each. You're 200 with those together, and you've also got Howard, who's fairly central. So,
yes, I'd like to start to congregate and also try and meet a royal peace.
Yeah.
Can you scroll?
Yeah.
A little more to the middle there. Yeah. There we go.
There we go. So you have got Talbot, Stafford, and
So
Howard, Berkeley.
so Howard can use regional movement from where he is. Yes.
Yes, he can.
Get up into the area. I've always had a fondness for the Queen Regent. So let's go to Kenilworth.
So Howard can use regional movement. Just means you can go from any region here, into an adjacent region, any area in an adjacent region. So anywhere in this, he can go from here to anywhere in this region or into this region or all the way around. He's got a lot of spaces he could potentially move to, but he wants to move to outside Kenilworth. We flip him over to show that he's now in the open field. He's not in a fortress.
And Stafford will join.
Yep.
That's an easy move within the region.
Yep. He just goes to that.
And where's Howard laying about?
You've done Howard. Howard's done. You've got Berkeley.
Oh, Berkeley, yes.
Berkeley. He could go there as well.
Yes, of course.
Should.
Yeah.
He can go there as well. So
and who am I missing out now?
You're missing. You're actually only missing Talbot.
Well, put him there too.
All of yours can actually reach.
Yes. So let's amass our forces. That way, nobody will come and mess with us while we're liberating.
So we missed a very important thing. First thing you do on your turn is you
you always miss card. Sorry.
So
I was so excited. I was so excited.
Yeah. We do. I missed it as well. So draw an event card. This is the event deck, and we flip that, and we do what it says. Oh look, it's a free move. So it's a free move. Sorry, yeah, it's a free move. Ralph just gets a free move. It's just a freebie. There you go. We've got 2 free
and
moves.
You start with one, so now I that really helps a lot.
It does, yeah.
Okay, so
just
I've done my event. I've moved my nobles.
You've got a sequence of play on the back of your player aid, so it's very straightforward. First of all, you draw an event card, then you move all your pieces, and then you have a combat phase, and the other bits, the Parliament and the Coronation, are optional. It won't happen very often. And then there's an end of turn phase where you draw 2 crown cards and discard 1. So we've done the event, you've done the movement. Have you got any ships? I don't think you have any ships, do you?
I don't believe so.
Because you've got Ordinal Northern Marches and Chancellor. I probably ought to mention Chancellor of England. He can call Parliament if there is no king or there are 2 kings. In this game, there can be no kings or 1 king, which is how we start with just Henry VI as king. But there can be 2 kings. So we can have a Lancastrian king, which is Henry VI, or we could have the head of the House of York, which is currently Richard, Duke of York, up here in York. He could be crowned king if somebody can get control of him and go to a cathedral with an archbishop or 2 bishops and crown him king. And then at that point, we would have 2 kings. Now, Parliament can only be called. The reason you call Parliament is to gain more stuff. So this spot here is Chancery. And in here, it starts seeded with 2 cards. Those are both titles, but it can be titles or offices. Titles or offices go in Chancery. If you call Parliament, you actually get to allocate those cards, usually to your own people, as long as you're able, as long as you don't break any of the rules for how you form your faction. So Ralph has moved. So he's done the event phase and moved. So now we go to combat. Combats can be either battles or sieges. I'm not going to go through the detail in much, but this is a siege of Kenilworth because Margaret is skulking in Kenilworth Castle, and there is a garrison of 200 that Ralph's forces must overcome. And Ralph actually has his whole
precisely 200 points worth, please.
Yeah, your best route is with Talbot and Berkeley, because that gives you. Oh no, it isn't. That gives you 190, which isn't quite enough. 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. So you need Talbot, Berkeley, and Howard as your best bet.
Yes, there we go.
That will give you exactly 200.
3 is I don't want anybody to die.
Yes, yeah. We'll demonstrate this. So I will take Ralph's event card, which determines the result of the siege. Now we just need any event card except bad weather delays attack, and it will succeed. So
you just took the whole stack. You just took the whole stack.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Sorry, that does sometimes happen.
Yeah.
just better. Yeah, we can whip it off. There we go.
This won't happen with the physical.
And there we go. There we go. Bad weather.
Oh!
Perfect. Yeah, perfect.
Yes.
That's what we like to see.
My luck is in.
Yeah, it's a 1 in 7 chance of those. We'll deal with the rest of that. So it's always this black half of the event deck which gives you the result of any combat. So that's a fail. So that means that Kenilworth Castle is now under siege. So we put a besieged marker on Kenilworth Castle to denote that. So Ralph can then stay there and continue to besiege the castle and have another go next turn. So I think that's
so now I skip over the next 2 steps and I draw my cards. So you can show them out for display when you get them.
Yeah, okay.
But they would
go into Ralph's hand normally.
But I'm only going to get to keep one of these right now because they're the only 2 cards I have in hand.
I'll just have to transport them via there. All right, let's just do this. Right, here we go. So those are the 2 cards. Flip them over. And now Ralph has to choose a card from hand to discard. And this is Ralph's hand, so it's going to be one or other of those that you're going to discard.
And which bishop is that?
Oh, sorry. This is the Bishop of Norwich. So that Bishop of Norwich gives you control of Norwich.
I'll be keeping that one.
So you'll be keeping that one. And the other one just goes into the crown card discard pile up there. Now, Ralph's hand is now 1 card, which is this Bishop of Norwich. So let's just...
And no one knows what I have except for me.
We'll just flip that. That's Ralph's hand. Right, that's the end of... The act of discarding means that Ralph's finished. So now it's Kaiser's turn. Let's go to where Kaiser is. Now, you haven't seen this. You haven't seen your particular array.
I'm pro. I can deal with this.
Exactly. You've got Pole. You've got Pole over here in Suffolk.
John de la Pole, yeah.
John de la Pole, yep. And you've got Beaufort, Duke of Somerset, down here in Corfe.
Margaret Beaufort?
He dies pretty early, didn't
he? Yes, and Herbert.
He's a Welshman, isn't he?
He's a Welshman. William Herbert over here, but he's right next to Cardigan, and he's a freebie, go there. And you've also got Hastings. I've given you the main troops in your people who are more or less central. So you've got Hastings. Hastings
William Lord Hastings, hero.
Yeah. Assassinated by Richard III.
That's a filthy lie.
allegedly, yeah.
In all of the books, he did it, but it's a filthy lie. Okay.
He's got 100. He's got 100 troops, and he's central, so he's there. And Paul is on this. He's on this road. So the road, you in this game, you are allowed to go through neutral places. So he can freely go by road movement through London, for example, up to Coventry, if you want to. Coventry is not on the road, but sorry, it's not blocking the road, but it is on the road. So you could go by, Notice you can't go by regional movement to Coventry unless you use a free move card. A free move just gives you an extra move.
All right. Well, let's see what events we've got, shall we?
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Oops, let's go.
The ball.
Excuse me, that was wrong. If I go to...
Because events are random.
one of these shortcuts. There we go. Right. Event. Let's flip that off and
flip it off.
Storms at sea.
Ooh.
Well, there are no ships at sea. Ships take refuge in Newport, but there are no ships at sea.
Excellent.
So it's another non-event.
Another non-event.
It's a non-event event.
Yes. Okay. So there's a royal peace in Coventry, and I can get to it. Was that right?
Yes, that's correct. There's a royal peace in Coventry. So theoretically, Pole could use the road movement to go down there through London and up to Coventry, and then the other guy can go there as well. So let's do that. So he goes all the way down there. If London was held by somebody else, he couldn't do that. Unless he negotiated passage. And then you've got Hastings as well can get there because he's just next door. Now your other guys, both at Duke of Somerset. Now you are the admiral. Bear in mind, you are.
I'm the admiral of all England.
You are. You have got 2 ships, one in Southampton and one in Lynn.
And the ships have names as well, which is cool.
They do, yeah. You've got La Margaret of Lynn and La Crystal of Southampton, and they can move five areas. and they've got a capacity of 150 each, so you can carry quite a lot of troops in those two.
So
I mean, for example, you would have the option of going, if you could muster the troops, of going to Calais and getting good old Richard Duke of Gloucester.
But I need 300 men for that. But in the meantime, I understand that the noble men of Harlech do not reside in Cardigan Bay. They're all wimps, and if you just turn up, they'll hand over a royal prince, and you can push him down the stairs. So
Cardigan, in Cardigan you can. You want to? Herbert wants to go to Cardigan. Okay, that's fine.
If I go to Cardigan,
yes,
yeah, and then can I move one of my ships to Cardigan to pick him up later?
Cardigan's not a port, unfortunately, but Milford Haven is nearby, and that's an open port. It's just a port in the open, so anybody can go there. So do you want to move your ship across?
Can I take the Duke of Somerset with him?
You'd have to. That would be an extra turn because you have to, the only way you do siege movement is you have to start with your noble in the same area as the port. Right. So you could move the ship round.
Yeah, let's move
the ship round. 1, 2, and stick it in there. It's still in the port. It's now in the port at Corfe.
Yeah,
and you can just stay there and wait around, and then you can board and move him around later.
Charles Latorre has a good question. He wants to know about the variant cards, and yes, they've curated all the different variants that have been on BGG and out in the general and elsewhere, and many of them are included in the game. That's for you, Charles.
Yeah.
Thank you. So now I have George Duke of Clarence, yes?
You do have George Duke of Clarence. Now that means that you get George Duke of Clarence's card.
Well, we won't be needing that card. I can tell you that much. George Duke of Clarence, despite being a Yorkist child, is a filthy traitor. So we're going to throw him into the sea.
Well, do you want to wait until do you want to wait? You want to wait and see if you get Coventry or not first, because you might not get Coventry. You see?
No. I definitely want to kill George Duke of Clarence.
Okay,
as a personal objective.
Oh, I see. Right. Yes. Fair enough. So we'll just take him off and we'll bung him.
Dead in the sea, mate. Crab feed.
Oh, there you go.
Gone.
He's up there. He's gone. Right. Okay. That's just the way of it sometimes. Now Herbert,
get rid of him.
Herbert has a choice. He can stay in Cardigan, or at the end of the turn, he can come out of Cardigan. That's up to him. He's not really going to be a target.
You don't want to be in a city.
No, you don't want to be in a town because of plague. Exactly. So you come out.
Yeah.
Herbert actually did die of plague.
Oh, we're going to have to go kill Herbert for his disastrous deed there.
Yeah.
He was a malcontent and a traitor to the realm. He was put his head on a block. Yeah. The words were spoken, and he is gone.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, meanwhile, over at Coventry, you have got De La Pole and Hastings there. So you have got 200 troops, and there's only a 200 garrison. So you can actually besiege Coventry. I presume that is what you would like to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's time to put an end to the machinations of this French witch.
Okay, so we take.
What are the odds of De La Pole dying?
It's right. It's a clam. Now it's a clam for Parliament. Oh, good.
You didn't stack the deck, did you, to demo the game?
I didn't. It's unbelievable. Now I need to explain for those that know the old Kingmaker. There are no writs of summons in Kingmaker II. Instead of that, you've got a Clamour for Parliament card in each quarter, shuffled into each quarter of the event deck. When it comes out, as in this case, you stick it over here, and that means Parliament can be called. You don't need a writ of summons; you just need to control the king. So no problem there.
Or Chancellor King or
that's it. So that replaces writs of summons. It's slightly easier to handle because you can have that situation in the old game where you can call Parliament, but you don't have a writ. And you never get a writ, and nobody will trade you a writ because they all know that if they do, you'll call Parliament. Yeah. So that's just you do that, and then you keep going. We've still got your resolution to do, so we just draw another card and flip that, and we have we have here it's successful. You ignore the. Let's just show you this card. We're looking at the black bit. You ignore the odds. The odds are only for battles. Sieges are automatically successful as long as bad weather didn't delay the attack.
As is all that information in yellow. We're looking at the black bit here.
Only the black bit. The bit in yellow is irrelevant. So
you're lucky Beaufort wasn't along.
Mowbray and Beaufort, if they were there, would have been killed Now, I think that Beaufort was not there because he's currently waiting for his ship down south. So that was a bit of luck, really. That was a bit of luck. So we'll move him out. You're now.
So our siege is successful.
Your siege is successful. You've taken Edward, so you get Edward's card now. This is something.
Is it? I thought it was Margaret of Anjou. Who is it? We've got Edward.
You've got Edward.
No, I have a Margaret.
Well, no, you don't have Margaret yet. You're besieging it at the moment.
So
let's just get.
This is the Prince of Wales.
This is Edward, Prince of Wales. Yeah, there we go.
Oh, he's a filthy Lancastrian, mate. Throw him out of the tower. Get rid of him.
But George was a Lancastrian. George was a Yorkist, and you just killed him.
I'm gonna get Yorkists. George is dodgy.
Well, he is dodgy. I'd give that. But you've got,
mate. Prince of Wales. Throw him out the window. Get it done.
What?
Out the window.
What? Oh, okay. If that's really what you want to do, but
can you do that? Can you just kill?
You can just kill them. Actually, you can. Yes. I mean, usually you might want to actually keep one because if you haven't got one,
I mean, what is?
Right. I mean, you can certainly kill him if you like, but if you want to keep it, let's just presume you might want to keep one of them.
Let me explain what's happening here, right? When I am a Wars of the Roses fan, so when I play Kingmaker, I want my best experiences as a partisan Wars of the Roses peasant, which means I'm going to win by having a Yorkist royal piece.
Fair enough.
And it's definitely not going to be the trade.
Now, do mark his town with the faction marker since he did successfully besiege it.
Yes, okay. So you actually do control Coventry.
Now, that is not a good idea if you want to win the game.
Yes.
But I used to enjoy and still enjoy playing this game for a role-playing experience where all Lancastrians must die.
Yes, absolutely.
And the one true king.
If you look on,
Margaret fancies her chances now.
Yeah. If you look at these cards, these little red seals are the number of prestige points that each faction has. Yeah. We all start with 2. If you keep a royal piece, you get another 2, so you'd be on 4. But in a 3-player game, you need 13 to win. So it's going to take a while. We're not going to finish this game, obviously. So I think, am I right in saying that's probably the end of your turn then? So you need to take a couple of crown cards. Yeah. Are you done?
I take a crown card. Yeah.
Take 2 crown cards because we give you the choice and we flip these over. Ooh, we're just showing you. Yeah, okay. We're showing you these because, now you need to discard one. Let's get rid of him. He's not relevant.
Ipswich. I'll definitely keep Ipswich. Yeah.
You've got 2 cards. One is
crap.
One is crap and one is good. I suggest maybe taking the good one.
I would like to be. Is that Chamberlain of the County Palatine of
Chester? Yes. This card gives
extra troops in Wales.
Yeah. So
let's give that to Herbert. Is it Herbert, the Welsh noble?
You can't.
He doesn't have a title.
He's got no title. You could give it to the Duke of Somerset, or you could just keep it in your hand.
Ooh,
normally you keep it in your hand, and because you can play it by surprise in a battle, and you suddenly find that Beaufort has got an extra 200 troops in Wales, which nobody expected. That's the kind of thing you can spring surprises in this game, right? So I think you've just done that, and you've discarded it, so it's my go. So we'll go over to my bit. Now, I'm going to make this fairly quick. I reasoned that you'd leave me. Oh, take a card, thank you. You'd leave me with something to get. One of those nobles you're almost certain to leave me with because there were 3 that I could reach. Plague at last. Look, Plague in Plymouth and Exeter. But there's nobody in Plymouth or Exeter.
Isn't my ship in Plymouth or is it in Poole?
No, it's in Corfe. You're safe.
In Corfe, I'm all right.
But ships can't be affected by plague anyway, so we're
right. Sailors are already plague, pox-ridden. Don't count.
Right. What I'm going to do is now there is a ruling in this version of Kingmaker. You can't attack somebody's nobles in the first round. This is basically designed because evil people would just besiege somebody in their home castle and destroy them before they could do anything, which isn't, again, not a happy play experience. So what I would love to be able to do is to go and fight a battle with good old Talbot, Earl of Shrewsbury outside Kenilworth, but I can't. I'm not
all my guys are there. Come on.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that. I am going to go over to Harlech because I can reach Harlech Fitzallen can go across to there. We see Bellamont. I mean, Harlequ's bound to be easy to take. There was never a long siege of Harlech anywhere.
There's a lot to sing in Harlech, I think.
It was the longest siege in the War of the Roses, as it happens. But we're going to ignore that history because we're making our own history. The other guys I've got Clifford up here, so he might as well just bimble on down a bit to try to link up with my forces. It's unlikely that anybody will attack him because they're not going to gain anything by just killing him, I'm hoping. And my other guy, Courtney, Earl of Devonshire, will go to the next region, and he's going to sit on a road, or in an area with a road, rather, so that at some point he might be able to use road movement. Admittedly, Farnham's a bit of a problem.
Again, for classic players, this is this regional movement, which is these purple boundaries.
That's
so you
right.
just moved what under the old system was a large number of squares.
Yes, I'd have to count. And in fact, that is
It's
probably
similar.
it will probably be about 5 squares in the old map. I haven't.
It's so close as to not make a difference.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's definitely faster
Yes.
to execute.
Yeah, it is. So I'm now going to besiege Harlech. So everybody sing Men of Harlech while we do this, right?
How many men have you got, Harlech?
Oh no! Oh god! It's another bad
Are you
weather.
Kidding me?
There's bad
Who
weather.
shuffled this deck?
There's bad weather in Harlech as well. Oh well. That was.
Must have been a front moving through.
Yeah, I think so. So that was a bit unsuccessful. So I take 2 crown cards and I just guard one of them. So let's just do that. And then I've got some Swiss Landsknechts, or I can have the Earl of Pembroke. Well, I think I'll keep the Earl of Pembroke in my hand.
I want to be Earl of Pembroke, so then I can be Chamberlain of Wales.
Yeah, but maybe we'll trade it later on or ally or something.
Alan,
Anyway, that's that.
you said no one would want to come and attack your guy, but maybe we want to hear the lamentations of your women.
Yes.
Crush your enemies, children before you. Hear the lamentation of the women.
I think maybe my guys.
I think we woke Johnny up.
Are you gonna? Do you want to illustrate a battle? Then you want to come across and crush me, like a.
Well, let me get my siege done first, and I'll see what happens. But
What?
are we going to
event first, right?
round, or is
We should do a battle. We should do a battle. We should certainly do it. Do you want to do? Shall we do your event first then? Okay.
do an event?
This is round 2, so theoretically you can attack people. Peasant revolt.
Ooh.
Stafford to Leeds. Aha.
Oh, that's not good.
So Stafford, which is one of Ralph's nobles, has to go to Leeds. So let's just go in a bit.
This is kind of, I'm glad we've got to this. This is kind of a key aspect of Kingmaker.
Yeah. So
you think you've got it together, and then suddenly peasant revolt, everybody from wherever that revolt is happening has got to go back home and deal with it.
So in this case, Ralph has got all his nobles together outside Kenilworth, besieging Kenilworth. But now Stafford here has to go to Leeds Castle, which is down in Kent, as everybody knows. And he has to
It's
go
on the road.
Yeah,
it's on the road, but he has to go in there, which means that now you have to assess: have you still got enough to do the siege?
Well, hang on, hasn't somebody got Clifford?
No.
No, I don't. I get to move before that, and I have 2 free move cards, so I'm not worried.
The other mentioned noble.
No, there's only one. I think there was only one. Sorry, no. This is looking at just the orange part of the card.
Oh,
right.
Sorry,
part. Yeah, Stafford to Leeds is there's only one guy moved. Yeah, the other bit's just the combat.
The battle.
So, I mean,
I'm going to move Stafford back over.
Well,
first of all, we wanted to show a battle. So, what has he got there at where he killed off Edward? What is he? How much does he have there?
Here, he's got 200. You could just
200. Well, let's just to show it off. I'll take my entire stacks over to there.
Okay, right.
And I'll use a free move to get Stafford there as well.
I don't think you need to use a free move because you can go by road.
Oh yeah, he's on the road. That's true.
Right, so move Stafford up there. Okay. So
free
now,
pass past London.
you can go through London because it's neutral. That's not a problem. So in this particular case, I
He's
think
abandoned this siege.
He's abandoned the siege. Yeah, that's marker's gone. This is basically Pole and Hastings, which is 200 troops, because we looked at it last time, against all of Ralph's troops. Now, we have a handy army strength track here, which you can use to keep track of your largest army if you want to. But this is early in the game. It's not too difficult to add this lot up. You've got 100 for Talbot. You've got 80 for Buckingham. You don't include the Bishop of Durham's 30, because that only counts north of the River Trent. You can see you've got a purple bit where that applies. So that's
all right.
That's 180 plus another 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, which is 270, 280. So you've got 280 in total.
280.
So we could just bung that on there, 280, just so you can see. And the other side we know is 200. So now,
at this point, I could pull something from my hands.
Yes.
But
But nowhere else.
Yeah, just your hands.
But the problem is, you can a noble can only have one office.
Yes.
Right.
So both offices.
Do a little math for me. Peek at my card, see how much it is, add it to, and see if it bumps me up for the battle.
Well, you've got a Bishop of Norwich, so no, it doesn't, because you're not in East Anglia.
No.
The Bishop of Norwich gets
30 points,
but only
over there. Yeah, so I'll keep that hidden.
Nobody's cards make any difference.
All right, so let's do the battle.
Okay, so
just to be clear, I could slide that office onto one of these nobles if that noble piece was eligible.
Yeah.
And you can only have one high office, and these two cards have already got one.
That's exactly it. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, we've now got 280 versus 200. Now, what we normally do is we use that as an odds. And there was a lookup table in the player aid for this, but it's fairly easy to do.
Sure.
It's actually it's less than 3-2, because 3-2 would be 300 against 200, but it's greater than 5-4, because I know what the odds on the cards are: majority 5-4, 3-2, 2-1, 3-1, 4-1. So there's a little table you can look up for that, but without going into too much detail, what we'll do is we'll just draw the card and we'll see what happens. So if we draw the card, we're looking for
but you can win and still lose.
Yes.
Let's have a look. Can we zoom in on that then?
Right, yeah, there we go. So see, 5-4. That's a win for Ralph Fortis. It's a win, right?
And
both
and Howard die.
Yeah, but
Beaufort's not there.
Beaufort's not there, but Howard is there, because that's one of yours, Ralph. So Howard actually dies, but
it's the little guy, though, isn't it?
The little guy, yeah. He's only got 10 trees.
10 men.
So Howard just.
So I don't really even get much for that.
Howard gets discarded to the discard pile. There's no rally to the cause, because it's only one crown card lost, so no compensation for that. But in a battle, what happens is these guys are captured by Ralph. So let's move them down out of the way a bit. They're captured. Now, in most games, this was just to illustrate a battle. In most games, you wouldn't necessarily commit to a battle like that. But here...
that was foolish on my part, really, because I didn't really have that good of odds.
Yeah, exactly. Now, you can either negotiate for the ransom of these guys, or what often happens is they just get killed. In which case, if they get killed, the titles and offices will go to the Chancery for reallocation in Parliament. The nobles go back to the discard pile, and the two mercenaries would both come to Ralph. So that would be how that would go.
Right.
But
and that's what will happen, because we know he likes offing people, so we'll off with their heads.
Yeah.
So he will now draw, though. 1, 2, 3,
draw
4, 5, 6, 7.
So, gentlemen,
draw 3 cards. That's it.
That's sort of good timing, because I can see the Battlefront team have arrived, and we are just about out of time. So let's
That's
just remind people of the basics. You've seen a couple of turns played.
Yep.
This Kingmaker, this classic, iconic game of Wars of the Roses, where you too can push your Duke of Clarence out of a window, and that's fine. That's part of the game. You can knife yourself a young prince or burn a French witch just by declaring I control her. That's what I want to do.
That's exactly it. You can.
There's complexity around how these chancery cards work, but it's a really interesting attempt at simulating the politics of the Wars of the Roses. It's not as complicated as it probably looked there because we were trying to blitz through it. Alan and Ralph, the designers there. This game is going to be on Kickstarter on the 26th of September.
Yep.
And it's basically fundamentally one pledge level. I want this game, and it's 65 UK pounds.
Right. There are some exclusive add-ons that you can pledge for all in one pledge. They aren't going to be add-ons in the usual sense. They're just pledge levels.
Trinkets.
You can be a noble, an earl, a duke, or a royal, depending on whether you want just the game in a tote bag, the game in a puzzle, or all of that.
Yeah. All right, then, guys. It's been a real pleasure.
Thanks very much.
Sorry to kind of rush this. This is the first attempt at a double feature, but I can see the Battlefront crew all in a row, ready to talk to us. It's been a real pleasure, gentlemen. So thank you for that, and we will see you again.
Thank you very much, guys.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all for watching.
See ya.
So I have a slight handover moment here.
Hello, guys. Hello, everyone.
Hi. Hello. Oh, I feel uncomfortable. There's a panel of people.
I've learned it.
Slip away.
We're coming for you.
Right. Guys, Chris has sent me through some great images, which I hope you're in a position to talk to. On the slim chance that there are some people here that don't actually know who you are, can I just ask you to sort of, as individuals, introduce yourself? I realize you're Battlefront Flames of War.
I'm Peter Siminovich. I'm the chairman of Battlefront.
Chris Townley. I help run the design studio here in New Zealand.
Phil Yates. I wrote Flames of War.
And there you go. Boom.
To bring a bit of feed, I think there's 22 people in the studio here. 22?
Yeah, probably.
Approximately. Doing graphic design, games, marketing, accounting, all sorts of other things. We've also got a shop downstairs. If you come and see us in Auckland, we've got a shop only with Battlefront products in it. And,
I mean, I'd love to come to the shop in Auckland, but it is literally the other side of the world.
Yes, we are on the other side of the planet. Yes, but this is my office, and this is where we discuss new books and rules and everything else, and argue a bit sometimes. But we all remember that Phil is right. So yeah, if you believe that, anyway. But no, we have a lot of fun here, and I think we generally all like what we do. I love what I do, and I think I'm blessed. I think these guys are blessed to work for me. But let's put that issue aside. We have a lot of fun, and we do a lot of fun stuff. Flames of War, board games, Battlefield in the Box, and everything else. Anyway, that's the next book. So ask away, please.
So what I thought, guys, if we could, because Chris has kindly sent through some stuff. So I thought, in terms of making sure that everybody gets what they want, Chris has sent me. It sent me the bit of the catalogue that's at the back of the book, which has got all of the shiny new toys. So if it's okay with you guys, I think my viewers would kill me if we didn't start there and make sure we covered all of that. I was really impressed to see how much new stuff there's coming for this. So if it's okay with you, I'll bring that up. We'll talk through that, and then we'll look at some of the questions that we've got. And then you had some new templates and orders of battle, which are a feature of British Bulge, and another little bit of a treat for maybe things coming later in the year. Does that work for you guys?
Perfect, and we're happy to answer questions as well. We're here
as we go. All right then. So let me get it's a PDF that I've got here. So is it whizzes past?
Get to the shiny.
Yeah. Normally I'd have all this set up beforehand, but we've had we had different guys in. Right. So is that coming up for everyone? You see the British Bulge?
Yes.
That's sharing. So I'm gonna whiz down to the bit that we absolutely must cover, or the viewers will go mental. So this is the back section of every one of your major releases with the books. You get this kind of picture, which is a bit of a showcase, right?
Yep, that's what we think is for starting players, maybe an army for starting players, or someone getting into the game. This is sort of army that we think would work well for you.
So
clearly, I'm a big fan of it because I think everything, barring the infantry, everything in that photo I painted. So,
right. I mean, the bit that struck me is how much almost everything in that is new or brand new. I mean, even the stuff that isn't brand new is still very new, right? So British Bulge, I mean, the British are not really part of the Battle of the Bulge. They're a little bit there. What actually is this covering, this book?
Well, it does cover the Battle of the Bulge, and you'd be surprised how involved the British were on the northern flank. Not as much as the Americans, but still involved there. But it covers basically the market garden operations, the operations clearing the Rhineland area, and the Walcheren, the Scheldt operations clearing the access to Amsterdam, and then the crossing of the Rhine, and then the final sort of pursuit through to northern Germany.
So these are all of the final operation, and I'll be right in understanding this will be the last Flames of War British book.
Yeah, it's the last book for the historical stuff. This book covers the Normandy campaign, and then this book covers everything sort of after the Normandy campaign, after the Great Swan.
Okay,
which was the pursuit from Normandy up into the Low Countries.
I'd like just to correct that. It's the last British book for late war.
Yes.
But definitely not the last British book.
Yes.
Chronologically speaking, in
Yes.
the Flames of War, World War
Well,
II.
not even, I don't know, Team Yankee. It's yeah. No, anyway, yes, we get to that.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
It's the late 45, late 44, 45 book for the British.
Yeah.
and for those people, I know there's a lot of clamour online about Market Garden. That's very much covered in this book.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So see, you got this nice headline picture. I'm probably whizzing through this a bit fast. So straight up, there's going to be a new Army in a Box set. We love these on the channel. I think that this is some of the best value products that any company makes.
Yeah.
20 vehicles, and these are almost all new, right? What does this build you up?
Sorry, I think the only thing that's not sort of relatively new in there is the infantry. The Daimlers and the Dingoes came out as part of the the D-Day British book, but otherwise it's very new on the Cromwell. Sorry, but otherwise, yeah, it's packed full of new stuff, and predominantly new stuff for this box. Yeah, and
even those, even if people have already got the previous set and they've got a late war painted Dingo, these are used in the mid-war as well, right? I mean, some of those vehicles have been around for even the earlier part of the war.
No, I don't. Apart from the armored cars.
Yeah, that's what I meant specifically. Those as a thing that people might have already had.
Oh yeah.
They've been
the other
around.
thing we tried to do with the army deal is make sure that if some of the D-Day one, they're actually not going to feel like they're being given redundant models. This should just build on someone's collection, not be duplicates where possible.
Yeah, I mean, if I can just read out we're going to look at the tanks in detail. There's a really nice mix of vehicles in here. So 4 of the Comets, 2 of the Cromwells, which are close support tanks here, 3 Chaffies, 4 Challengers, and then some of these rather more specialist vehicles, the Ram Kangaroo transports, the Archer, and the Sexton, and the Kangaroo Rifle platoon. And there's not sort of, sometimes you get sort of 7 of one vehicle. There's a really nice mix, isn't there, here for people, even if you've already got a substantial collection. Is there a little bit of this, a little bit of that? I'll see, are the Sextons worth upgrading from the 25-pounders, or do I stick with what I've got? So that's really nice. Now, the infantry platoon in here, then, is that the hard plastic one?
It is, yeah.
That's the standard level, which is nice because it's a lovely set. Yeah. You've got your gaming sets that come out, really nice. But then let's look at this is what everybody wants to see, isn't it? So I'm gonna zoom in. We'll go through these, if I may, one at a time. The Comet Armored Troop, then. All plastic is written all over this release, which is great. Always great. I don't know if you've said, I say this to wargamers everywhere. It is a pleasure and a privilege to build some of these Flames of War tanks. Not just because the finished product is really nice, but they're wargamers kits. They're 15 to 20 pieces, not 70, 80 pieces. If I need 20 of these, I want to be able to knock it up in an hour and be satisfied. And they're a pleasure to paint as well. I know I'm gushing a little bit, but I really think it's some of the best things out there are your plastic tanks, and I mean that. So the Comet, then, what this is brand new, presumably.
No, we made the Comet a few years ago, but this is its first time into version 4. So it's the first chance for players to run what is probably a bit of an apex predator for the British Army.
And these come as their own. This is not like Firefly; it doesn't just go in its own. Come as part of another trip. You can take a full squadron of these.
Yep. Basically, were intended to be upgunned Cromwells, but they found out they needed to do a bit more work than that. So they're not quite the same, but basically a 17-pounder armed Cromwell.
Right. But it's not a support gun tank either. You can take a whole group of them. Yeah.
No, my army that I'm working on has 10 of them as its in its formation.
Slacker, only 10.
Well,
that's you can get 10 in a unit.
You get 10 in the formation, plus have room for other toys. Yep.
Nice. The Cromwell we've seen before, the desert with the Desert Rats box set, but you're packaging it now. You can get it as a troop with the Firefly in it.
Yeah.
Nice. The Sherman troop we've seen before.
Yes.
And that's the M4A3 kit, is it? The Sherman?
No, that's
it's the Sherman 5.
Basic, A5.
Yeah. Right. The crocodiles. I think we've seen these before as well, haven't we?
Yeah. They featured heavily in D-Day.
Yeah. But we've got Avray Assault. Is that a new unit option in there?
No, they were all in D-Day. The Churchill is pretty much the same as D-Day, apart from the ability to take Cuckoo, which is a panther.
Right. Like literally a repainted panther?
Yes.
Oh, right. Okay. The Challenger armored troops. So that is one ugly beast. What can you tell me about this tank?
I can tell you that when I was taking some test sprues home to assemble on Christmas Eve, I was driving down the road, the car went over a bump, and all the pieces that I carefully cut out showered the back seat of my car. So I can tell you that. No, in terms of the model, it's fantastic. I think of it as being an oversized Cromwell. So if you like the Cromwell, you can't help but love it. Game-wise, it's dynamite. It really is.
It's a cross between a Firefly and a Cromwell.
Yeah.
And you can either take them in place of Fireflies in your Cromwell units, or there's was a weird organization that what was it? The
Hussars.
One of the Hussar regiments had in one of its squadrons. They'd half converted to comets, but there weren't enough comets about. So they gathered up all of the best remaining Challengers and Cromwells and formed a squadron, half of Cromwells, half of Challengers. So you have 2 Challenger troops, 2 Cromwell troops. So
we'll be taking a look at that formation in a little while, I suspect, because I think it was in one of the ones I sent through to you.
That's one of the ones you want to pick out and talk a little bit more about. Nice. I think that we might have seen this released for tanks, have we? But this is
yes, yeah, that came out a couple of months ago for World of Tanks. Yeah.
with Wave 7. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I painted one of those. Right.
Yeah, it's fantastic in World of Tanks too.
This we're enjoying the new artillery rules at the moment. We've just had a couple of games with that. So Chaffee, I didn't realize the British used these. So this is that really late war American light tank.
Yeah, they were only used in the regimental reconnaissance troop, so they don't get written up much. And in fact, when I was doing this book, I did another dig in just to find out how widespread they were, and found a lot more references to them than I'd previously found. Right. Basically, they started withdrawing some of the Stuarts and replacing them with Chaffees. The Stuarts being rather old, both mechanically and design-wise by that point. And so, yeah, your reconnaissance troop can have Chaffees.
When Phil mentioned that they were going to go in the book, my first answer was excellent.
Right, yeah, which is another that came out with the American release slightly earlier in the year, didn't it? So again, it's another nice, and they're quite cute, aren't they?
They're fantastic. Yeah,
tiny,
and I'm pretty sure that they're what play the Nazi tanks in that Patton movie. I think they're a lot of Chaffies, aren't they?
Are they?
The M47? No,
I think they're M47 Patton.
I thought they were Chaffies, but
I haven't seen the movie, but I was told they were M47s, but it could be anything.
I haven't seen it since last century.
Yeah. All right, don't quote me on that. Right, so that's that first page. But we got more to go. The Stuart, this is the M5 Stuart kit that we're familiar with, presumably.
Yep, you want something that does the job and nice and cheap.
Yeah. The Daimler and the Dingo. Now this one's I really like this sprue, and it's a shame I should have got a photograph of it because it's a sprue within a sprue, isn't it? The Dingo is kind of embedded in a bigger sprue that's got the Daimler on it.
Yeah, it's a half and half sprue. Well, they operate together. It seemed like an efficient way to tool it and to sell it, so it works. And they are, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love almost all units in this book equally, but the Daimler and Dingo platoon I love more than all others because there's nothing as satisfying as hunting an enemy Panther tank with a Daimler and watching it. Tank 7 is just enough.
Yeah, don't let anyone tell you that 2-pounder is undergunned. Certainly not in 1945. There is something as a little bit like so many of the British armored cars. Is they're beautifully ugly, aren't they? I mean, these are hideous things to look at, but they're gloriously. That's a British armored car. That is right there. You know, a bit of Humber, Staghound. They all look like pigs. All of them.
Yeah.
What was it that made you pick out this one in particular within that? Because you're not going to make another British armored car in plastic anytime soon. You took a punt on the Daimler. Was there a reason for that?
It's the most widespread of the armored cars. It operates from late 1942 right through to the end of the war as the mainstream armored car. And by the end of the war, it's replacing all others. Even in the infantry divisions, they've almost all switched to Daimlers by this point.
Right.
Yeah. As New Zealanders, we would quite like to see a Staghound, but you know.
I mean, yeah. When I start catching up in the chat, I'm sure there's going to be a million people saying, "When will this be in plastic? When will that be in plastic? When will this be in plastic?" I mean, that's what happens, right? You turn on a microphone, and can I just clarify? The answer to that is, if we live long enough, it will all come out in plastic. It's about when and what first, presumably.
Plastics are they're a great product, and thank you for your comments on plastics. And we put a lot of effort into it, and we all make them, and we take the test shots, and we muck around with the sheets and everything. There's a lot of work goes into them, but there's also got to be a return on investment. There's a large investment on every tool, and we got to look at every one. What's the most economical tool? What's the most economical use of time? There's a lot of so it's an economic question as well. Unfortunately, we'd love, like Chris says, I'd love to have the Staghound. There's lots of stuff we all love to do, but it's also got to be economically sound.
You got to sell them. which means
German.
late war German, you're probably going to make it, right?
Yeah.
Because they sell.
Yeah, there is an element of if you build it, they will come.
Yes.
We would. I can't say this for certainty, but I'm sure we've probably sold more plastic Daimlers than we sold the previous metal and resin kit, because the new model is A, fantastic, and B, so useful in the game. It's there's a real reason to buy it. So there's a lot of, as Peter says, there's a lot of elements that go into the whole process when we think about them.
Yeah.
The biggest limitation is the speed we can make them.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that is it.
Yeah.
So this I was glad to finally see. This is another one of the, you know, as a YouTuber, when we do product reviews, you look at the sprue and you're thinking that's for later, that isn't it? So when we saw there were SAS LRDG options on the Jeep sprue, but no crew figures. We knew this day would come, so I'm really pleased to see that.
Yeah, it was a well future-proofed kit, that one.
Yeah, because there's a range of different kind of bonnet and rear stowage options on that sprue. So presumably you get the standard record. You got SAS section listed here as an option. Are they just slightly better stats, but they're still a Scout Spearhead unit?
Yeah,
they're a unit of 3 with some different upgrades. I can't remember their stats, although we have them conveniently here.
Sorry, it's been a little while in progress, so I'm going to making a statement here. But the SAS section, basically, your Scout, Spearhead, Fearless, Veteran, Careful. They're just best sort of Jeep crew you can get, and great wiki guys. And there's a command card that allows you to have them appear somewhere in the backfield of your opponent.
Right. So there is something special about them as well, which is nice. Yeah. Cool.
So they're supposed to operate behind enemy lines, and sometimes they actually, in the very end of the war, when they were coming home, they actually sort of came through the lines during actions.
Right, from the other side. Yeah. And I assume that these new crew, there's going to be a Psyocast crew for these, presumably.
Yes, there are. Yeah.
And their new sculpts, which we'll get to see later at some point. 9 universal carriers in a box. That's a lot of Bren carriers.
Well, they're just so useful, aren't they?
And it's a nice universal. Old universal carriers I've put together.
Right. So is there a unit of universal carriers now, like a top end formation? Is that something new?
No. It's mainly because if you're running a rifle company, you just
or a motor company,
or as it happens, a Daimler reconnaissance company. You just can use so many of them. They fill so many roles.
Yeah. And I remember there's a nice mixture of variants on that sprue. Let's go to the other half of this page. Right then, this is brand new, right?
Yes,
or is it? So this is the Archer anti-tank. This is a 17-pounder on a Valentine the other way around. Is that right?
Yes.
Is that how that works? So I can see, love the old plastic logo. I'm always on the lookout for that. Is this an entirely new thing, or is this a Valentine sprue and an upgrade sprue?
Funny story. It was going to be an upgrade sprue. So we put a Valentine and that in there. And after a bit of discussion, it was decided that whilst it would cost a little bit more to make the frame, it would be much easier for a new customer coming in if you just got a specific Archer frame. Forgive me if at some point I accidentally call it a Valentine, because I always do. Whenever we're building things and thinking about how we should design our plastics, our first port of call always has to be a new customer. And you don't want to give someone an army deal with some Valentine sprues that aren't shown on the box, that are confusing. And then all we're doing is saying, take the lower hull and the tracks from this piece of plastic and add them to all the bits here. So just about improving that kind of customer journey. It is a completely fresh plastic tool.
That's very considerate.
But they are going to be exactly the same length and width as my existing Valentines.
Yep, they should.
And all of that.
Well, I haven't measured it personally, but I'll be asked if they're not.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah. And this one as a vehicle, the driving position is still the original position, right? This drives backwards. Is that right?
It drives with the gun to the rear. So they back into a firing position, but they're self-propelled anti-tank guns in the British sense rather than tank hunters in the American sense. They're supposed to be emplaced and wait for the enemy to come to them. So they're basically easier to get into position. 17-pounders was the British view.
Yeah.
So it was all fine, just drive up, back in. And although there's long been tales of the driver's head getting clobbered when the gun recoiled, there's been some nice YouTube videos recently sort of debunking that.
A lot of that stuff turns out to be apocryphal, doesn't it, when they test it? But it sounds credible. Nice. So that's really nice to see. And presumably there's a crew sprue that goes with that as well.
Yes, there is. Yeah, there's some new crew figures that Evan designed to go with it.
Nice. The M10s, we've definitely seen those. So carrying on more new stuff here. The Sexton, then, that I had to say when Peter was just saying, there's a financial decision to be made here as well as a desire, what we want to see. And with you already doing the priest, I was quite surprised to see you were going to do a sextant as well. What was the thinking there then?
I was surprised as well.
I mean, I know they're different, but in terms of Flames of War, how different are they?
Well, that is the issue, though. But they are the iconic British artillery, and I think we hope that they were doing, considering we're getting the Ram Kangaroo and the Ram, the gun. What is the
Ram tank.
Yeah, the Ram tank.
Sorry,
and the Ram and the Ram Kangaroo as well. So, the armored personnel carry the tank and the artillery all in one sprue. So we hope that it's worthwhile. Yeah, but it is the iconic British artillery. The priests are, I think, slightly better in the game.
They are. I mean, but you're paying 30% more for the priests in points, because the Sexton basically is only a little 25-pounder, 88 millimeter compared with 105 in the priest. So they're a cheaper artillery option that has slightly less firepower, less armor, less machine guns, less all of those things, and just focused on giving you some artillery at a very cost-effective price for the British.
But I do think, as a British player, and that you really got to have a go at the Sextant. It's just the iconic artillery, and
definitely.
You don't want all that American. You don't want all that American stuff in your army. That's
right. Yeah. We can pretend we built at least some of it ourselves. But within this that you just mentioned, so this is a new sprue that's quite modular. Then,
it's got, because of the hull bottom and the core parts are all across all three models. We worked out we only sort of needed to add a few extra bits in order to go from a Sexton to a Ram Kangaroo as well. And then there is a piece, probably 6 inches by 2, not even probably that big.
No, it's smaller than that.
That covers the bits for the Ram tank as well.
Right, and for anybody that doesn't know, what are these strange things in which you speak? Ram tank. What is this? Is this a Bob Semple gig?
It's Canadian.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, they're Canadian.
The Canadians were trying to build a tank when the British weren't able to supply them in the earlier part of the war. And so they designed a version of the American Sherman for British use. So initially had a 2-pounder, but was designed for a 6-pounder, which they put in it, and built to British specifications and so forth, but it still looks very much like a Sherman. And so they built quite a large number of these along with lots of Valentines, sent them to Britain for training, but every time they went into action, they exchanged them for British tanks or American tanks. And in fact, they ended up always going into action with Shermans. But we've included in the book the option to, there was a Americans had a desperate shortage of Shermans in October 1944 after D-Day that lost far more than they planned. And so, perhaps the Canadians were stripped of some of their Shermans or unable to get enough Shermans and sort of took some of their Rams over and had a play. I mean, since we could make a Ram tank and it's such a strange little beast, we thought it would be a pity not to include it.
And it's popular with the Canadians and people who have Canadian arms.
Oh, yeah.
And it already works alongside this Sexton vehicle you were already making, so it wasn't that big a deal, presumably. Yeah. Okay.
And the kangaroo, basically, in D-Day, you've got kangaroos based on priests, but they wanted more of them, and they had a bunch of Rams sitting in Britain that the Canadians weren't using, so they stripped the turrets out of those and used them as armored personnel carriers. So in the game, your infantry can be carried in basically an armored personnel carrier with the armor of a battle tank.
This Ram Kangaroo, whilst it looks like a kid's toy tank that he's lost the turret for, this is actually an armored personnel carrier, right?
Yeah.
All right. Let's keep going then. So this is the priest. We've already seen the 25 pounder. Now there's some new infantry here, or are these? So this parachute company we've got here.
These all come through from D-Day.
All the D-Day stuff.
They're the same ones we saw at D-Day, are they?
Yeah, the models are from D-Day, but there are new lists in the book around Market Garden and so on that you can use them for.
Right, and these are just sort of packaged in different ways with different unit cards.
And packaged in the same way. It's still the same codes. One of the things that's happened is that over time we're slowly, progressively removing unit cards from boxes, because you're getting to the point now where if you bought say a Panzer IV box, you would find enough unit cards in there that you could wallpaper them. So rather than burning with that and the wastage, we're removing them.
Yes, and I think we'll see when we look at the moment of the kind of force diagram stuff. I'm assuming, I may be jumping the gun a little bit here, but once you've kind of laid out the headline books for each of the major campaigns in late war, there's space to go back and look at some of those more specialist areas. You've already got like the Desert Rats units cards, and the SS unit cards are quite different from the mainstream ones.
They all have their own feel, and that's the important bit, that we retain that feel. And that's what putting unit cards separately does that as well. It gives the ability to have different feel. And also then the command cards as well give you another angle to everything as well. So it's about creating the variety without the confusion is the mission. And I think that's really important, because you've got to keep the long-term players like us happy, but you've got to make sure the new players have an easy access as well. So it's that balance. It is what it is. We're not going to make everyone happy all the time, but it is that balance, and sometimes we just get it wrong.
Okay, carrying on through then. So this is the infantry sprue, presumably.
Yeah,
and then
the original hard plastic infantry.
17 pounders. So again, these are things that people who've got that late war stuff would already. And then at the bottom here, what's this?
What? Yep, more Canadian stuff. Well, the Canadians manned them; they were British designed.
So that is not in fact it's not in fact a bedstead with a load of bottles of ketchup in it, is it?
Land mattress. I did not know we had anything like that.
They're like 4.5-inch rockets or something.
3-inch rockets they're basically the similar rockets to the Typhoon's rockets. The mattress was a naval anti-submarine weapon, and land mattress was how do we put these huge warheads in a thing that can fire 32 of them in a salvo and do what the Germans have been doing to us with their Nebelwerfers, minis and screaming memes. And It's pretty nasty.
I mean, the whole thing looks like it's going to fall apart once you set fire to it. Right? But
It's
that's
a bit it is a bit Heath Robertson, yes.
But we did have them in the late war. It's nice to see them. And is this a metal or resin kit or?
That's a metal kit. That one.
That's a metal kit. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, that's probably one of the few metal kits in the book these days.
I
think it possibly could be
the
the only
metal kit.
Yeah.
We have another resin kit, but that's the only metal kit.
Nice. And then the Crusader AA. I remember reading quite recently that actually a lot of these didn't get shipped over because the Germans just didn't have any planes. There was a plan, and a lot of them were converted.
But yeah, a lot of units decided that they needed the cruise for other things more than they needed AA cover against the Luftwaffe at that point.
Non-existent. All right. Hopefully, I think that's the end of that list. Have I missed anything?
One more.
Hopefully not.
I think there's one page that's probably fallen out of the PDF that's got it's got our aircraft and our Bofors anti-aircraft guns. So in terms of pure what people are looking for, I think you've probably hit all the high points.
Although I do like the self-propelled Bofors. It's a cool little thing.
Oh, there's a self-propelled Bofors.
Yes.
Yeah.
A four-wheel drive truck with a Bofors on the back.
Right. And is that the other metal or resin thing that you mentioned?
Yes, it's using our plastic Bofors gun on a resin resin truck.
On a resin truck. Okay, that makes sense. So those are the main things there. If I will go back then. So Chris, did you have an idea? You had some formations you wanted to talk through. You just want me to go through it page by page, or was there something you had in mind?
I started with some special rules because I know what people are dying to screenshot and have a look at. And after that, I've included a few of my favorite formations. Wanted to leave a few things for people to find later on, but yes. So there's probably Phil maybe can talk through some of the new additions that people won't have seen before.
Yeah, so the first two in particular are new. Close assault. Basically, when you're a passenger in a Ram Kangaroo, you can actually remain in the Kangaroo until the beginning of the assault step and then dismount to assault. Normally, with half-tracks and things, you have to get out and form up and assault. But the Kangaroos being well protected, the infantry actually drove up very close in them and then dismounted at the last moment. And this allows you basically to drive up your Kangaroos, try and hose down the enemy and pin them down. If that doesn't work, you just sit in your well-protected Kangaroos and go, yeah, do your worst, and then have another go next turn. If it works, you jump out and in with the bayonet. The second one we've got there is MRC body armor, which was the Medical Research Council, I think. They produced body armor, which the glider pilots in particular got all excited about and wore, and some of the parachute units as well, I think, from memory. And it basically protects you from artillery bombardments. You get an extra save if you're hit in a artillery bombardment.
And this is a real thing. They made this and issued it in large quantities.
Yep, you can't see it because it's worn under the Denison smock.
Right,
and the parachute smock is big and loose and bulky, so you can't even tell whether somebody's wearing anything under it, particularly fairly well-fitted body armor. So heavy. And the glider pilots weren't expected to march very far, so they were willing to wear it.
This is going to make for some pretty tough infantry. You've got an extra layer of 5-up save.
Yeah.
And that 5-up save is not affected by things like the brutal rule or repeat bombardment. It's not got the...
No, because it happens when you fail your save, and the brutal rule says you have to re-roll that save, but then you have finally failed the save, and then you get another 5+ attempt. So, artillery against glider pilots, not the most useful way of getting rid of them.
And when you say glider pilots, is this like one base in your platoon has got this rule?
No, the British basically formed the glider pilot regiment, and they had glider pilot wings. So all the gliders were flown by the glider pilots, and when they landed, they were trained to be able to help whoever they were with at the time. They could fire 6-pounder guns, they could fire AA weapons, they could fire anything. They were trained on everything. Supermen. But as soon as the immediate danger was over, they were supposed to reform into their squadrons and fight as a reserve for the infantry. So, they didn't actually end up doing much fighting on the landing zones at Market Garden. The landing zones weren't much contested. So they held part of the Oosterbeek perimeter. Some of them went into right to the bridge with Frost. All over the place.
Nice.
Wow.
So yes, a force of glider pilots if you want.
Yeah, right.
Paint me some up, Kaiser.
That's the advantage of a company level game, though, isn't it? Is these really niche units? They do exist on this scale. They're there, which is always nice to see. All right, thank you.
Yeah, other than that, we've got some a lot of new rockets. The British don't have rockets up to this point, but they've got tulip rockets on their Sherman, they've got the land mattress and so forth. And so there's a few new rules there. There's a one-use rule that some of the rockets, like the tulips, use it, it's gone, there's no reloads. And saturation bombardment for some of them where there's just so many rockets. 32 rockets in a launcher is pretty heavy duty for big rockets. So they get a saturation bombardment rule, which basically every rocket launcher counts as 2. So your 4 rocket launchers count as 8 and get rerolls.
Does the table go up to 8? I didn't realize it.
It only goes up to 5+. But
right.
You can afford to lose a rocket launcher, then you're down to 6. You're still getting your rerolls.
Yes.
Lose another one. Okay, I've lost my reroll.
Nice. Okay, any more from this page, or shall I roll us off?
I think that's the key one.
Pretty much,
yeah. Okay.
So I think next up, we're doing the force diagram, so you can see in sort of one quick glance what you can expect to be fielding in the book.
So this is back to what I was saying before. You're getting a little bit more specialized in the subdivisions now, right? I don't know are the stats different within these regiments, or is it just that they've got different units?
Starting on the left, the Comets, obviously brand new. The Hussars have got that new organization where they ended up with 50-50 Challengers and Cromwells. The Black Bull Motor Company is the 11th Armored Division who basically they took their 50 cals off their Shermans and things, and the infantry said, oh, we'll have those, and fitted them to their half-tracks. So they've got armed half-tracks, which is a novelty for the British.
Yes. The British tend not to have the machine guns on the half-tracks, do they?
Yeah, they thought they were useful battle taxis, but shouldn't be shot at.
Yeah.
The Cromwells, previously in D-Day, you've either got the Desert Rats, who are a little bit sort of wary about, hang on, we've been fighting for how long and we have to do it again?
Yes. Was it called cautious, not stupid, or something like that?
Yes, yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. After replacing everybody at the rank of colonel and above in the division and the casualties in Normandy, the division sort of settled down to pretty much a normal sort of division. So this is your 7th Armoured Division Cromwell Squadron. But in addition, it's also got 2 Fireflies per platoon, if you wish, or up to 2 Challengers per platoon. So 2 or 3 Cromwells and 1 or 2 17-pounders of whichever variety you like. So, and all with the more normal British ratings.
With the normal stat lines, yeah.
Yeah. The Rams, that's also new, but with the Canadian ratings. The Guards Armoured Division stuff is a fairly normal Sherman unit, but again, it's got twice as many Fireflies as in D-Day, but it's also got the option of sticking tulip rockets on them. So they went and borrowed some of the RAF's rockets off their Typhoons and strapped a couple to the side of the turret, one on each side, and tried them out and found them to be quite entertaining.
Yeah. That doesn't sound like the kind of thing I want to do. It's a pretty dangerous gig. Okay. And then over on the right, we've got our infantry and airborne formations.
Yeah. So Churchills, which are pretty much the same as the D-Day Churchills. They didn't change a lot, but they've got the captured Panther Cuckoo with them. So you can have fun with a Panther with your Churchills. Then the Kangaroo Rifle Company, again, it's a fairly normal rifle company, except it's got kangaroos, which make it very unusual, especially with that close assault rule, allowing you to get right in there and do stuff with your infantry. Frost Parachute Company for the Arnhem Bridge, and the Glider Pilot Squadron. And then your support we've seen pretty much in the catalogue. What you see there, if it wasn't in one of these, it's in the support area.
Yeah, I'm just Landmaster. This is all right.
Yeah.
So, can I go back to this cuckoo thing? You've said it a few times now. It's not something I'm familiar with. So we're saying that in the Churchill squadrons there are captured.
It was in the regimental headquarters. It was Coldstream Guards had it. And they picked it up, did a bit of work on it, painted it, put big stars on it, as you can imagine.
Please don't bomb me.
All over, yep. And then went and used it in action. So one of them, the Churchills were having trouble against a castle, and they weren't getting close enough for their 75 millimeters to be accurate. So the Cuckoo came up and with its long 75 started pounding the German positions. So right through the winter, Cuckoo supported the Churchills. Unfortunately, it suffered a clutch failure after a few months.
Well,
a German tank with some mechanical unreliability. That
unbelievable.
Isn't it?
Yep. And they abandoned it at that point and never sort of got another.
So this is what we're talking about here. This Cuckoo. This is the story of one tank.
Yep.
Yes.
I thought let's put it in there. Famously one tank. All right then.
Although there was another captured Panther used, at least one used in Italy as well.
Right.
And there's maybe a third captured Panther. But yeah, the British basically had enough of their own stuff. They weren't going to muck around with German rubbish.
But it just seemed like such a fun thing to add. That why not?
No, I get it. Yeah. That's because this is a story of a tank is possibly why I've not heard of it. Right, on to the next page then. So we've got a few of the specific squadrons as well.
Yeah, I put a selection in there just for people to see and hopefully get excited about. The Comet seemed like an obvious first place, not only because it was the first formation in the book, but they're just very cool.
So yeah, it's basically an up-armored 17-pounder armed Cromwell. A few more points, but it's got the versatility of basically the 77 millimeter, which isn't actually a 17-pounder. It fires 17-pounder ammunition, but it's a cut-down 17-pounder. So slightly less anti-tank, but more as much as a 17-pounder in Normandy because it's firing the new APDS ammunition. The armor 7. It's fast. It does everything. It's got HE. It's you name it. It's got it. An all-round tank. One of the best all-round tanks of the war.
Right. We British finally made a good one. And you say cut down. It's like the barrel. It's not as long. The barrel, making it a bit more useful in urban environments and so forth.
It was more that the 17-pounder had a pretty harsh recoil. And so to fit it inside a tank turret a little better than the 17-pounder in the Firefly, which was a bit of a bodge job, they put a shorter, smaller case in it, similar to what the Panzer IV did to the Pak 40, and bigger recoil buffers and a slightly shorter barrel, and the net result was a
more
almost
suitable gun
that was workable in a tank rather than just about knocking the tank over every time it fired.
Yeah. So yeah, anti-tank power of 14 I can see on there, but still only with a front armor of 7. So yeah, not one to leave out in the open against the big guns.
No, but it's got the speed and the skill to sort of get where you need it to be. So if you have to go from cover to flanking something like a King Tiger or a Jagd Tiger, you can do it very fast. Or if you're just going from cover to cover, it's like, okay, I'm here, oh, I'm over here. Now we're right where we want to be, and let's start shooting.
Basically, shoot first.
Yes, indeed. Or by this point in the war, we've got some tanks and you haven't, so there, right?
Yeah.
It is another aspect of this. All right, the Hussar Squadron. So this is the one you mentioned that was the half and half.
Yes.
Yeah, the 15th, 19th King's Royal Hussars. And you'll see in here that we've got a different recon option for them as well. And back in the Comets, they've now, instead of just getting Stuart recon, they've got Chaffees, Stuarts, or Dingoes.
Nice.
So you can go for the El Cheapo Dingoes, you can go for the Stuarts, or you can go for the Chaffees as your recon. The 15th, 19th Hussars are Dingo equipped. So yeah, you've got your Cromwells as the hunting dogs, send them out around the flanks with your Challengers sitting back shooting, but the Challengers have got the speed to get to wherever they need to be as well. So a great little force.
It's a huge advantage. The old Cromwell units were always slowed down by the Firefly. Yeah, now you got it's all in one and it keeps up, and so I think it's a great addition. Yeah.
And good to see the Dingo, and I love myself a 1 or 2 point access to the spearhead rule. I've got to say, that's nice to find in any army. We are unsullied by Flames of War 3. We didn't play Flames of War until Hit the Beach was my entry point into the game.
Yeah.
So I don't kind of have any memories of how things were. I only know how it is. So a lot of stuff like that spear, we're still kind of learning, really. There's still a lot to go with it. We only recently started doing a lot more with things like the spearhead rule, and it's been quite fun. We've still not played a game with command cards, believe it or not.
No,
we've literally as a YouTuber, it may look like you do a lot. We probably played 10 games, 11 games, and because everything we do is on camera, we don't have spare time to do anything else. So what have I learned since the last time I played on camera? Nothing. So this is the next time I played.
All our games, most of our games are done with proxies because the plastic kits aren't ready.
Right.
It's all proxies and all this sort of. Oh, that's actually this. That's that. So we're testing with proxies all the time. It's the same issue.
Yeah.
Time is the enemy. Yes.
Exciting when they finally arrive and you can actually make the real thing and take it to a tournament or something and actually get to play with the real models.
Yeah. There's and you can have such a big force on this kind of scale, can't you? I'm really enjoying that. Right. Before Cromwell Armored Squadron, is this radically different from what we've seen before?
Well, the page on the right there tells you what's really different. It's not the reluctant guys that you saw in Normandy.
Right.
These, as I said, these have got the normal ratings, but you've got the Cromwell, the Challenger, and the Firefly all in the same troop. So 1 or 2 Challengers or Fireflies and the rest Cromwells. So you can do a Normandy style 117-pounder 3 Cromwells if you want, or you can go 50-50. So you can have 2 Cromwells, 2 Challengers. And here's where the Challenger's speed really sort of, as Pete was saying, shows up, because they can keep up with the Cromwells in doing flanking maneuvers, or you can just go with the older style, keep your Fireflies sort of more in a covering position while you send your Cromwells out to hunt, sort of thing. And they've all got anti-tank 15 for the 17-pounders. The new APDS ammunition that they've got later in the war is really nice. This is seriously tank
This is the real
stuff.
gear.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to mention to the viewers, if I may, I know there's been some questions in the chat, but I think, you know, everybody wants to kind of see, dare I say, presentation. We want to see these bits. And so we don't get distracted. And then I've got some structured questions. And then if Pete and the team will take more questions, I'm not ignoring them. I'm just, if we interrupt the flow, we'll never get through this. And I think everyone wants to see this stuff that's here tonight. So just don't, hopefully you don't
bear with us.
bear with us, and we'll get there. All right. Yeah. So that's the Cromwell. So presumably on the flip side to that, though, Phil, is you want to take those slightly better quality, better trained or more motivated guys. The points are going to reflect that as well.
Yeah, between the higher end tank on the 17-pounders and the better quality troops, you've got more expensive equipment. I don't regret having my Normandy guys. They perform well for me. 14 is enough anti-tank in most situations.
Yeah.
And I like having that extra troop, even though once things start going bad, they go terribly bad. But probably be tempted to pick up a bunch of challenges and get rid of one of my Cromwell troops, get rid of the Fireflies, and try out the challenges just to see whether this really is my cup of tea or not, because I love Cromwells and I've been playing with the 7th Armoured Division since 2007, 6, 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're one of my favourite forces. So changing them up after a few years like this is probably about due.
Yeah. And you mentioned the option to bring them in. I'm assuming, like we saw with the American Bulge before, because I'm pretty sure the paper strength of the troop is 3 in the gun tank. But what happens in action is, when you lose a tank, you get what's available.
There was always a shortage of 17-pounders. So basically, you're unlikely to get more 17-pounders than were regularly available. So you're always going to have at least as many Cromwells as 17-pounders. But as the numbers of production got up, units started going, 2 troops of 2 17-pounders and 2 troops of 1 17-pounder. And then towards the end of the war, production had got to the point where there were 50-50. But like the American 76, it's got no HE. The HE round wasn't particularly effective. So having Cromwells, particularly as you say, against German forces that don't have a lot of tanks, gives you that good HE capability as well.
Yeah. All right then. Let's have a look at the next one. We've got, so this is the new thing, the Ram Armored Squadron. Whoop, whoop. And the South Alberta Regiment. So is this based on an actual formation?
The South Alberta Regiment existed. They were one of the reconnaissance regiment of the 4th Canadian Armoured Division, I think. And our assumption was, if you were going to give one of your regiments an odd tank, it's most likely going to be the semi-independent reconnaissance regiment rather than one of the regiments in the tank brigade. So we said, if anybody's likely to get them, it's probably the South Albertas, and they're the ones we picked.
Right. So this regiment is real. It was in Normandy, but it probably didn't have this equipment. But
no, it had Shermans. But as I said, the Americans had decided that they really were going to get nasty on the supply of Shermans. It might have been something that the Canadians would have considered to just keep their tank strength up.
Yeah. And how are the Ram tanks going to be different? I mean, people who choose this are going to choose this because they're Canadian or they love the fact that the Canadians built these. But in terms of in the game, then, what are there reasons to choose these?
I think so.
It's huge in a British Canadian sort of way.
Well, is it overpowered? No. Is it? But is it a game changer? No. But is it fun? Yes.
Yeah, it's got a 6-pounder gun instead of the 75mm of the Shermans. So it's got less firepower, but higher anti-tank, which against the really high armored stuff is useful. Against, say, Panzer IVs and so forth, it's the firepower, the anti-tank's good enough on a Sherman and the firepower starts coming out. Against infantry, of course, the Sherman's firepower is better. So it swings and roundabouts which way you want to go. You want a slightly better anti-tank for the heavies or a more general purpose tank. And being Canadian designed, they listened to the studies and gave it proper ammunition protection. And then with the Canadian eagerness that we've modeled with better rally and remount ratings, they end up on remount 2+. So
wow. I noticed that. Yeah.
I certainly look at it from the perspective that for 90 something, I'm going from memory, from a spreadsheet that's open on my computer, around 93-ish points, you can field a full formation diagram with a pile of Rams, the Firefly platoon. So that's a dedicated platoon of Fireflies.
Yes, I noticed that. Is that unique to these? I think I've seen that on a command card before.
It's a D-Day. It's a throwback from D-Day, isn't it, Phil?
The original organization was 5 troops of Shermans, 5 troops of 3 Shermans. When they brought in the Fireflies, they originally thought about putting them in a separate troop, and some units, particularly the DD units, tried that. But what they found is that the Fireflies were always in the wrong place. So the standard became the other option that people have been trying of 1 Firefly with each troop. So there was always a Firefly where you wanted it, which
even if
was
it was
helpful.
only
So
one.
they disbanded the troop and spread them out. But the Albertas, being a reconnaissance unit, didn't have Fireflies until this point. So we've gone with the Firefly troop.
So yeah, I look at it as being, I can take a full strength squadron, still have some points left over, either for a couple of land mattresses, a couple of sextons, a motor platoon, you name it. There's a bunch of options that I can just plug in with my last few points. And I'm still putting 3, 6, 9, 12, 18 tanks, plus the Stuarts on top of that. So I'm not short of models to rush at you. So yeah, I'm actually quite excited about this one.
Right. And it's different, right? Which is always nice to see.
I've put a lot of the 11th Armoured decals on tanks over the last 2 or 3 years of the Big 4 of Late War project. And at home, there is a pile of Canadian decals that I haven't been using, obviously. So they now finally have a place to go.
Yeah. All right. The Kangaroo Rifle Company. So these are in this is basically ram-mounted infantry, is it?
Yes. Flip through.
Yep. So they're pretty much a standard rifle company. They didn't change the organization of the rifle company. It's just your HQ and your rifle platoons now have Kangaroos. So between those and the carriers, you've got a quite mobile assault force with your guns and things sitting at the back. And there are command cards to give carriers to tow the 6-pounders and carry various other weapons and so forth. So basically, you can have a fully mobile rifle company with battle tank armor on their infantry.
If you just scroll up a second, you'll see in that diagram why 9 universal carriers.
There's a lot of options for that here. And
basically, everything above the top, below the top 3, can have universal carriers. You can have universal carriers carrying your mortars. You've got universal carriers for your machine guns, universal carriers for your 6-pounders, and then 4 units of universal carriers.
And you probably can feel it because they're like a point for 3 or something, right?
They're very cheap.
Pretty cheap vehicles.
Awesome.
So then, Frost's parachute company. This is Arnhem.
So it's based literally on what Frost had at Arnhem. So the supporting arms within the formation are a little unusual. So there were hardly any mortars or anti-tank guns, so they're very small units of mortars and anti-tank guns. but you've still got 75s firing from Oosterbeek supporting you. And some of the Jeeps came in with them, a few machine guns, but mostly all you've got is parachute platoons or parachute engineers or glider pilots. And
there were a couple of 6-pounders there, weren't there? But that they quickly ran out of ammunition.
Yeah, there were not. I don't even think it was a dozen. It was more than half a dozen. But by the time you scattered around the perimeter, there were 1s and 2s. and very limited ammunition. And this is where you've got that glider pilot flight I'm seeing there in the Force organization.
It has its own company as well, the glider pilots.
Yeah, there's a whole glider pilot squadron,
which have got that special rule that we discussed earlier. Yeah, very nice. So these are the same paratrooper sculpts we saw that came with the Desert Rats box. Is that right? The D-Day release?
Yes, with D-Day, yes.
Yeah, nice. Okay. And then we're at the bits that I've shown you already. Hopefully to the not hopefully. I mean, it's lovely to see all of that stuff, right? I'm not 100% sure, but I think this may be the first place you've shown these pictures, right?
Yes.
Yep. The pre-orders starting, I think, the end of this week. Pre-orders start for it. Yeah. But you guys are first. Yes.
We are on it.
Don't tell anyone. Just keep it.
Yeah.
So this pre-order, the UK date is mid-October. Is that right? What are the release
October
dates?
the 15th from memory. But
and for our US and international view, is it the same?
Same date. So customers in Australia, as far as I'm aware, they are on track for stock in Australia as well, and UK and US should be all fine too.
For the 15th, and people should be able to pre-order them from the weekend. Did you say, or from next week?
I believe so. From Friday, I haven't got the exact date, but Friday, I believe it's pre-order.
Right. Price point the same as your other starter army boxes?
Yes. Yeah. It's a steal. Let's be honest.
It absolutely is. I mean, they usually these, because we reviewed all of them, absolutely all of them. They usually at 20 vehicles, or interchanging guns and infantry teams within that. They're fantastic value for what they are. I really appreciate that. So, were there any other things that you guys wanted to say before I kind of had a look at some questions that I've got and gone back to the chats? Is there anything that we didn't cover in that presentation, or do you want to wave at your mom or anything like that? Because otherwise we just kind of plunged
pretty well. I think it's a fun book. We're very pleased with it. I think a lot of, if you want to play British, it's a good book. It's a must-have, really.
Definitely. I mean,
people in the world. People who like the aesthetic of British tanks and people who are wrong.
Yes. But in the late war, we've got some nice ones. And we've even got some good ones. Good looking and nice. Yeah, we had to get hammered all the war before we reached the point. We've got good looking tanks that perform well. Right. So I'll have a look at some of the things that I prepared here. So some of this stuff is going to seem a bit weird in relation to what we've just been talking about, because I came up with these questions a while ago, but the things that I think that the viewers are interested in knowing answers to. So it's about mid-war. Of the across this year, we've had these two big compilation books, which have consolidated all of those books, and they're great because it now means I don't have to have a dozen books. I can just have the one, even if it is enormous, and so forth. So does that mean that kind of mid-war, as things stand, you've kind of wrapped that up, and in the next couple 3 to 5 years, we're not going to see much new for mid-war? You're going to look in other directions?
I think there is some. I think as we go to other periods like early war, etc., that I think there is options for things like if we happen to do a Matilda or something rather that we add it into mid-war somehow. I think there is some things like that, but I think mid-war is pretty well wrapped up. Yes, I think we're happy with where mid-war is. We're happy with the box sets and the army deals, the starter sets. I think we're pretty happy with mid-war where it is. I think it's a wrap, really. I think there is going to be a few extra things coming out as we make plastics, more plastics, and we might try to bring a few extra things in. But it's basically a wrap, I think.
Yeah,
I'd say
that wasn't.
Yeah,
it wasn't meant to sound negative at all. I mean, I think it's a pretty complete product, right? And does that mean because these new army deals, you've had sort of a few different types of starter sets of various types. So we looked at like the Hammerfall and the Fury set and the Hit the Beach set, and now you have these big army boxes. Are these big starter armies? Is that and these smaller 2-player versus sets? Is this the future? Is this Is this? And
yes, basically yes. I think we've got I don't think I know. We have and it's a bit of a it's just about done. We've got an Eastern Front late war starter set coming in the style of Hit the Beach. So
that's exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. So yes, that is the future we see, and for us. It's about new players. Very, very important for us. It's important to look after our existing players, but it's important to keep new blood and get new blood into our hobby. And the starter sets are a great place. The army deals, all that sort of stuff, are great places for those. So yes, the model has been very successful for mid-war with things like Kursk, Stalingrad, and Kasserine. I think that's you're definitely going to see more and more of that coming out in Flames of War and Team Yankee and other periods. Yeah, so I think that is a good formula. We're happy with that formula.
Yeah. And so that in the boxes that exist at the moment, the army boxes, are they likely to continue in circulation, or will they rotate in and out, do you think?
We have always got skew bloat, code bloat, as we call it. It is an issue. Our intention is certainly as mid-war to keep the main army deals and the starter sets in stock. I do think we need to do some rationalization, and there's so many Panzer IV boxes, and reducing them down to one, making it easier for shops and that sort of thing. The M113 in Team Yankee is a great example for this. It's got so many flags on it now. The M109. So yes, stock rationalization is for shops, for us, for our warehouses, for manufacturing, for packaging supply is what we need to do. So. But we tend to keep all the army deals and the starter sets in stock, yes, and everything else kind of hopefully as well.
Yeah.
But in a more rational manner.
So, in terms of what's coming up, then I think it was probably 2 years ago, because Peter, I enjoy your sort of State of the Union address around Christmas time. I kind of watched that 2 or 3 times to mine it for every little thing you might have given away in that you hadn't intended to. You mentioned Wolverines a long time ago, and at the time I was like, "We've already got an M10. What's he talking about?" But it's not. I was the only person that had not watched that movie, so you kind of suggest
only watch the first one.
Only watch the first one.
That's not that great, but
because the others are different kind of bad, right? So Team Yankee is a science fiction setting anyway, or a fantasy, depending on what you like. The intention seemed to be you were going to go further down that route. Are you able to bring us up to speed on what we can expect?
I think we've seen the cover art, haven't we? When you put that up, I think the book's basically written. It's not at the printer yet, but
no, it's waiting on its print.
Yeah, it's waiting on its print. It's ready to go. We've got some cool stuff coming out for it. Have you got the cover there?
I have. I need to find it. Share screen.
I think it's yes, and we're going to go further. While you're looking for it, we're going to go further and further down that rabbit hole. Definitely are. There it is.
You've even called it Red Dawn, right? There we go.
Yes, we can't be accused of subtlety. That brings in Soviet paratroopers. It brings in the BMDs, as you can see on the cover there. It brings in, pickup trucks, which we all love. It brings in all those things. It's got a great storyline, how they come down and up from below.
Like the SAS, your partisans can appear from other parts of the field
in pickup trucks.
Oh, we're gonna see some new rules to reflect that
rabble.
They're new rules for Team Yankee. I don't think they're basically existing rules, aren't they, Phil, from Flames of War? But I think it's just about having it's about that book's about the Soviet paratroopers, about some Cubans, and some other, and it's actually some painting some tanks and infantry and some camouflage colors for the Soviets. Is they look really cool in those camo schemes, and it's about bringing in the Russian airborne units, which would have led any sort of charge through Europe or, in this case, America. We've got some American battlefield in the box stuff coming, which looks really cool. Maybe even a distillery. So it's and that stuff, it'll fit anywhere or play anywhere. It's just a different way to camo your tanks and use them. The book's basically about Soviet airborne troops, so all the BMDs, all that sort of stuff, and and we're having some fun with some Americans and some college boys. And
are we going to get a football team and some cheerleaders as infantry then?
I don't think throwing pom poms at the Soviets would work well. You need to watch the movie.
One of the things probably a cheerleader from memory.
Yeah, she's got a machine gun. Yeah, cheerleader with a machine gun. Yeah, interesting combination.
But are we going to see insurrectionist type model infantry?
Yes, there is. They're basically intersection. They're partisans. They're American partisans, freedom fighters. Out of the movie, yes, so you're going to see that, and we're going to go further down this rabbit hole where, obviously there's Korea, there's China, Yugoslavia. There's a lot more stuff we want to go down with this Team Yankee. So we are going down that rabbit hole, yes.
And the kind of looking at the fictional stories, presumably it makes it a little less uncomfortable for some people, right?
I think it is a very, particularly with the Ukraine war on now, it has to be, it's a very delicate subject, of course, that is. We all have our own personal opinions, but Battlefront has always been non-political and will remain so. That is our one of our guiding lines. We're non-political, and I won't get, there's none of that in our company. So people's personal views can be what they like, but we're non-political,
No, absolutely. But if we've got in a fictional setting, we're kind of freed from a lot of those problems.
And of course, some of the fiction's coming to life now in the Ukraine, which is a very unfortunate thing. And listen, I'm as we as Europeans are very pleased that it is fictional. But we're going to have fun with soldiers. We are going to have fun with toy soldiers. Going to do more of it, and we're going to go further down that rabbit hole. Yes.
Good.
Nice. So on that subject, then some of the questions you get asked these every time, the future. I remember when you started the late war, there was a nice roadmap that you laid out for several years, and I think we're kind of getting to the end of that now. Are we likely to be seeing? So the big questions you get asked is early war, because everybody loves a Panzer one. No, they don't. Pacific, and it's a sort of Checkpoint Charlie stuff. Where are they fitting?
The answer is yes to all of those things. You're not going to see a plastic Panzer one. I think that's a bit far down the rabbit hole. But we are making a plastic Panzer II. We are going to do early war. We're currently working through what should be in the plastic list and how we should release early. It's currently in the planning now. We are going to do Checkpoint Charlie. It's very important. That will tie in with the NAM and Fate of the Nation period, so it'll be the same points. And I hope to bring in, which is always my favourite, is the Bush Wars one, about the battles in Angola. So that I think Checkpoint Charlie will be that will be the part that brings that period together, I feel, so people can play. I know obviously the North Vietnamese didn't fight the West Germans, but it will be that whole period where the points are balanced there, and people can do what they want to do.
And you think that that's likely to come together as another one of these compilation books?
We're not sure how we're going to do it yet. It's still on the drawing book. I think, a Checkpoint Charlie will be the same size book. Will be that smaller size book as Nam and Fate of a Nation. So it will kind of fit on that on the shelf, and you'll recognise it easy on the shelf as a different period. Call it early Team Yankee, I suppose, is what you'd call it. Early World War III. So yeah, that's definitely there. How it actually, we're still working on it. So that's not
all right.
That's...
So, the question for you, Phil, about early war. One of the things we really noticed, we got Hit the Beach, like, wow, that's amazing value. Let's have a look at this. And we started playing, and then I had a look at Team Yankee. And one of the things that was immediately apparent, because they share a common system, is how much more lethal a game Team Yankee is. Everything is, if you hit and you penetrate, it blows up on a 2, almost everything. And then we went and played some desert stuff, El Alamein, where everything's got like 30 mil guns, and you're like, well, you probably hit it, but it's probably not going to penetrate, and if it does, it's probably not going to blow up. And I'm just wondering about that in the when you go back to the earlier war, is it running on the same scale?
Yes. It has a different feel, but it's like the difference between Late War and Team Yankee. If you started playing Team Yankee and started playing Late War, you might think, oh, all these pop guns, they keep bouncing and they don't kill things when they hit. And going back from Late War to Early War, you possibly get the same feel. But just like Late War works just as Team Yankee works, Early War works as well. You've just got to have the expectation that a lot of your shots are going to bail out the enemy rather than destroy them outright. And something like a 75mm field gun or a 25-pounder is awesome, because when it hits, it goes through and it kills.
I think Early War is about a different... I love Early War. I love the battles in France. 1940, and I think you can't be scared to maneuver in Early War. You've got to get out there and move. And I think and you're not going to get punished for it as much as you are in Late War or Team Yankee. You've got to get your vehicles moving. You've got to move them, and even the Sharbies, even them, they got to get out there and they got to move, and they can come down the middle. But they've got to everything's very mobile in that Early War. Think of them more as cavalry than sluggish tanks. Yeah.
And your standard guns, instead of ranging right across the table, can only go halfway across the table. So,
yes. And you've got motorcycles, right?
You've got to get your... If you want to play it like a Late War game, you're not going to do well. You've got to think differently. You've got to get in there and mix it up. Get close, get on the sides, mix it up. Yeah.
So are you able to put a bracket within sort of 12 months, 24 months? When can people start expecting to see their first plastic Panzer II and Early War?
Yes.
The plastic Panzer II will be out earlier because it's in the Berlin book. But Early War, I think you'll see, 12 to 24 months.
Yeah.
Is where my head is at. Yeah.
So where does that leave next year then? Is that team yet very much Team Yankee?
Next year we can't talk about it much, but Late War moves on to post-war. Is what I can say, and we've got some great kits coming out. Everyone's looking for a mouse. So stay tuned. A mouse, yes.
A mouse,
or even mice. So stay tuned.
And you can have both of them,
and maybe even more. But that's never, just because there's only 2 doesn't stop us.
No, absolutely no. People want.
So I think we're going to have some fun with where Late War's heading and stuff, and we've got some options. And we got lots of Team Yankee stuff. We got, of course, next year is very much about Berlin as well.
Yeah.
We've got 2 great Berlin books. We just finished editing them. Some great products coming up, some great army lists and stuff with them. So yeah, finishing late war and getting that wrapped up and then the start of a bit of post-war stuff at the end.
Nice. So you did just say Plastic Panzer 2, which I'd had down. That's a personal favorite. But presumably that in the Berlin book, you mean the Lynx, the late one?
No.
It's amazing what you find in a warehouse when you're very, very desperate.
Right. Oh, right. Okay.
There's a Plastic Panzer 2 coming in. It obviously ties into early war.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
nice.
It's one of those dual purpose kits.
And when you made the Hetzer, I was looking at this desperately trying to work out whether there was going to be an option to build a Panzer 38T, one of the Czech ones. It didn't look like you could. Is that also on that early mid-war list?
It's on the early war list. It's the I don't know whether we're still working through the plastic schedule, but it's on. It's one of the iconic tanks. Yes, the French tanks, the Char B, the Samoa, the R35, the Soviet tanks, the early ones,
T-26 and BT-7.
The British Vickers, of course. These are all iconic. So we're going to have to make some calls. It isn't. It isn't always. It isn't always that. We've got to make some. Not everything will make the cut.
Yeah, we get excited. We put everything on the list, and then you leave it on the list for a few days to sort of sit there. And then you come back with a fresh set of eyes and think, I want this tank, but unless I can find 1,000 friends that also want this tank, it may not make the cut.
Well, there's a reason for every single vehicle and every single tank. It is, if you want to find a reason for one, there's no problem that there's 100 reasons for every one.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you can't spend 4 years sculpting it either. So you can't do the list, and you can't afford to release nothing for a few years while you sculpt everything under the sun. So it's just a balance. It's a balancing game, and I know people get annoyed for some of the choices we make, but we got to make the choices we make, and do we always get it right? No.
But you've got to make money, right?
You've got to make money. You've got to pay the bills.
Yeah.
These guys aren't cheap. So we need to do. We need to make. We need to keep it all going, and we need to. And we need to make the right products that we feel is right, but also that will sell right.
Yeah. So a Plastic Dad's Army Butcher's van, not on the immediate schedule.
No, not going to happen. But a resin one,
Okay.
I think those are things are cool. Yes.
All right. Because just people have been talking about heroes and so forth in chat, and if you've time, we'll pick that up. Well, I wanted to talk, if we can, for a moment about infantry in Battlefront. I think your tanks are magnificent. I really unashamedly mean that. But there's a lot of different versions of Battlefront infantry, and some of the army sets haven't come with infantry. Where there's plastic frame infantry, they have. And I just wondered if you were willing to talk a little bit about what your thinking is and what your plans are. We've got some in metal, we've got some in plastic frame, we've got some in Cyocast. And some of these things like Cyocast, it's a bit of a Marmite product, for example. I've liked some of it and not liked some more. And I just wondered where you were with that and your thinking.
Well, we're doing more infantry focused things. Stalingrad's a good box set where it's basically a starter set where it's all infantry. We are going to do some more plastic infantry. They are a lot more expensive than tanks, so they've got to be. But if you take, say, Warsaw Pack infantry and American Team Yankee infantry, I think that's where your line is. Cyocast we've had some issues with. We read the feedback and stuff, but I think the new Cyocast material we're only just about to receive in the factories of the wildfoots of the market, I think that will help a lot, a huge amount. We can't make every infantry range in full plastic. We can't make a French early war range in plastic. That is just not gonna be viable. It's not gonna pay the bills. That's the road to ruin, unfortunately. I'd love to have those French infantry in their helmets and hard plastic, but realistically, it's not going to happen. CO cast, we are still focused on the CO cast area, but we need to improve. And I think the new CO cast, very hard materials, a lot, we'll be playing with it here. A lot easier to clean, a lot easier to do, and I think it molds a lot better. I think it is the very next best thing to hard plastic. People have a fondness for the lead, some of the lead ranges, and we are going to bring some of the old ranges back and some of those things on special order back. But at the end of the day, lead's had its day. It's got slippage. It gets the molds wear fast. I think we've got to move on from that product. But I do think the new CO cast is still, we will do some more hard plastic infantry. We are focused on infantry. The Stalingrad box is a good example of that. And we are going to do some more hard plastic.
There's loads of infantry in it, yeah.
And we're going to improve our CO cast with the new hard material and hopefully better quality control as well.
Right. And the thinking, my experience as the Sirecast, and it's not just you, you're not the only company using it, is when it's good, it's really good. But,
yes.
And when it isn't, you're like, I don't know how this left the factory, if I'm being brutally honest. And
we're honest with ourselves here, and we question it all the time. And it's how to get that 75% to 99%. That's the real.
Yeah.
That's the business trick here, is how do we get 75% of it's right and not 25% rubbish? And how do we get that to 90? You're never going to get 100, but how do we get that to 99%?
Yeah.
And that's lifting that bar there. I think the hard plastic and what we're bringing into place, the CO cast people are coming down from Spain to our factory in KL a couple of weeks' time. I think we're modifying the machines as well. We've got the new material just showing up. I think between these things, I think we can get to that, hopefully 99%, probably 95, 98%. But
yeah,
we're going to be targeting that 100% level. And I think that's I think you've hit the nail on the head. It's also about making it easier to clean.
Well, I think unfamiliarity doesn't help when there's a product that has got sometimes some quality control issue, and then it just doesn't look and feel like it feels different. And it's like, well, why would I want this when I know how this other thing works?
No, I feel for it too. I've had the patience of a run over rat. If I don't like something, if it's not good, I throw it across. I'm pretty quick at rejecting it, and these guys will tell you. And it's sometimes you just you're playing with something, and why have they given me this? And then it spoils the whole hobby experience, and that's really, really grim. And we can't do that. Our plastic kits are good; they're a pleasure to put together, generally speaking, and they're getting better. Our infantry should be the same. It should be, if it's got a mold line, it should be able to easy to clean. It should go on the base as well, and it should paint up nicely. That's the simple things of wargaming. It's not a complex business. It's a simple business.
Yeah, but by going for this harder material for the Sirecast, we'll be able to scrape rather than cut. We'll just clean it the way we're familiar with.
Yes, pilot and stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds really good. And
that's what we're used to. That's what us older people want to do.
Yeah. All right.
So that's the CO cast saga. I'm sorry I haven't got. Look, I'd love to do everything in hard plastic, but it's not going to happen.
No, but at least you were prepared to talk to us, and I appreciate that, because you could have. We sent you these questions. You could have said, you know what, I don't want to talk about that right now, because I know I know not everybody likes it, and I think
you never like talking about your faults, but you have to be honest with yourself and honest with your customers. I think that's really important. Do I want to talk about it? No, but we have to be honest. And if we have to be honest and blunt, and I think that's really important. And when we screw up, we have to own up and move on and fix the problem and move on. And I think that's the problem. Is it is a hobby, it is a business with huge delays in it. We ship by sea, and then it gets distributed in the warehouses, changed product. We've thrown away. We're going to be throwing away, I suppose, about 40 to maybe a bit less. I'm back my voice, but tens of thousands of dollars of old CO cast to make this change. So we are committed to it. We are absolutely committed to it.
Wow. And to make it in the new material.
Yes. So we can't run out the old material. We overstocked because of COVID, and we got plenty because of COVID. It is what it is. But we are going to throw away a pile of product, and we're going to change what we do.
And you're determined to get it right.
Yeah, we have to get it right. Yeah. Now, are you going to see the product next week in your local game store? No.
It takes time to filter through.
Yes, it's an industry with long delays, unfortunately.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. For anyone that's had Psycaster, as I say, in my experience, when it's good, it's good. Don't, if you've had something you're not entirely happy with, don't give up on it, because I've seen some really good stuff in it as well.
And if it's bad, we have our customer service. Send it in. I keep a very close tab every couple of days on our customer service lists and stuff. I see the email. We have a very good system where it tells us the management what's out there, what the complaints are, what's rejected and stuff. So don't hold back. Let our customer service know, and we want to fix the issues.
One of the comments, lack of Site 4 gaming, super cool seeing the Battlefront crew doing an interview like this. We'll look forward to watching the first part of it. Someone joined in the middle of the show. I got into Flames of War because I watched Phil playing it on YouTube. That was my exposure to it. And that was before I knew he'd written the rules. Just like, oh, this guy really knows how to play this game, doesn't he?
Mostly.
Yeah. Oh, another one that I'd had was, and this is again a bit of a personal thing, scenery in starter sets. And now the only reason I say this is I know that scenery is usually the worst part of most people's collections. And I think a really good fix to that is just more of it coming in those discounted bundles that we all buy in before we think about whether we need it. As that's something that you'd consider. And particularly, I thought you might have done it with the Stalingrad range, because you've got those lovely ruin building frames in plastic. Is that...
It was an option. It really was an option for the Stalingrad starter set. We went through various options. And the decision made was that we just want to give people toy soldiers. Those starter sets are about toy soldiers.
Give you more tanks and more soldiers, yeah.
Yes, and we would have had to, and it is a price point. They are heavily discounted. And so if you're putting terrain in there, you'd have to take infantry out of it. And we feel that it's really important that those starter sets, because, and I think we did some good bundle deals on the Stalingrad terrain. And I think that'll go well.
Yeah, I think also Battlefield in a Box, the whole range. I'm biased. I will die with unpainted miniatures in my garage. I'm already resigned to. I know, and it doesn't matter at what age I die. It could be I die at the age of 200. There will be unpainted toy soldiers. So I've always been a champion for Battlefield in a Box. I can buy some buildings, I can buy some hills, I can do nothing to them and put them straight on the table, or I can spend some time and just enhance them with some flock and so on. I'd rather get tanks painted than buildings, is the short answer for me.
Yeah. It was just one that I wanted to ask. Well, guys, I've had a look through the chat. There's a lot of love for the company.
Can I ask a couple of them?
Yeah, absolutely. The things you picked up there.
Beryl mentioned version 3, and I want to just comment on that V3 because it's a bit of a comment out there. We don't really care what you play. We have a philosophy here that I keep repeating, but I think it's really important. We own the product, we own the plastics, we own the game, but we don't own the hobby. It's your guy's hobby. It's the customer's hobby. They can do whatever they like with it. If they want to play V3, bless them. I'm happy. Listen, I'm whatever makes you, whatever is it that you want to do that's right for you. I understand not every decision we make will be to everyone's satisfaction. That's an impossible dream that we can't attain. But it is, we own the product, but we don't own the hobby. It's the player's hobby. So I just want to make that clear because we get blamed for some of the stuff about version 3 and stopping and stuff. And just want to make it clear that we did version 3. It's out there. We've put it up for free on, I think, on Forces on digital there. So people can do whatever they like with it. And I think that's just because I get that a fair bit. The other one is Plastic Italian Infantry. I'm sorry, but I'd love to do them, but no. Wardrobe plays World War II. Asked about early war. We've answered that, sorry. And historical scenarios, I think they're cool. But I also got to understand people. We have certain amount of people in the studio here, and only certain amount of time. And a certain amount of products we have to produce. The Battlefront team is 2 graphic designers. Wayne does the majority of writing. Phil wrote this book and still does some of the writing. And then we have marketing, basically on person marketing. So Flames of War Team Yankee is a really small team. There's Chris as well. Then there's all the plastic designers and everything else. Tim in England. But there's only so much we can do.
Only so many hours in the day.
To answer the question, is there a Staghound command card? I think there is in there, Phil.
Yep. There's there is a command card for the Staghound command cards in this one, which is what they're used for in Europe. I think there's one for the Manitoba Dragoons who use them completely as well.
Scott, can you ask your question again? I obviously missed it. I'd like to answer it. Scott just said I had to turn on my screen. Did the boys think my question worthy?
It was, with these monsters, do we get Sentinel tanks from Australia?
No, sorry. No. Sorry, Scott. No.
But feel free to find some kits of a Sentinel and fill them as Rams if you really want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, the only other thing I didn't answer here was, are we going to do another Christmas State of the Union speech? Definitely yes.
Is that's yeah? I find them really useful for knowing what's coming, guys. It's been.
I hate doing them. I hate doing them with a vengeance. I have to, and these guys hear the complaining, but I think they're really important, and I think. We will definitely do the two.
Setting the cameras up so they don't show the chains holding them in place.
Complaining involved, yes.
Yeah. Well, I certainly, and I usually do a video breaking down what you've just said, which gets thousands of views. So I can say people clearly want to know, because it's all the news, right? We want to know what's next. We've got to start saving up
people
our
want to know
pennies.
what's happening with their hobby and stuff. I would want to know the same thing, and that's why we do it. Yeah, it's not my most pleasurable day or two, that's for sure. But we have to. I'm just complaining. Yeah.
All right, guys.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for having us.
Legendary people.
It's a privilege.
One more thing. Can I raise one more thing about what's going to happen next year? We're going to have our open day again in the UK again. So, and I'm going to be up there for that. We're still setting the date and everything, but probably September next year we will have our open day. Again.
Nice.
So we're going to start those again.
We're going to get some press badges.
Sorry, what did you say?
Press badges. I'm sure something.
Yes, I'm sure we can do that. No problems at all. Yeah.
Doing some coverage. All right, chaps. So you're going to have to wait till Christmas if you want to ask Mr. Siminovich another question. We're going to wrap it up there. And thanks everybody for watching.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Yeah.